बस बस बस।
मैम इसको इसलिए पीछे रखते कि वो पीछे आप दिखते हैं सब, ये डेस्क वाले भी दिखते हैं इसके।
आया?
Hello, hello. Hello.
Good
hello.
morning, everybody. We'll begin shortly. Our guests for the day are on their way and we'll be beginning shortly. I request all the participants and guests gathered here to kindly settle down. शुरू करें? Good morning, everybody. I, Mitali Saxena, warmly welcome you to the Good morning, everyone. I, Mitali Saxena, take the pleasure of welcoming you to the day 2 of the third international conference organized by LJK University titled organized on the theme of sustainable futures, the role of management practices in advancing SDGs. A very warm welcome to all the respected dignitaries, guests, academic scholars, students, those who are present in the room, and also all the scholars and guests who are attending the conference online. Sustainability, the theme itself, is a trending theme these days, and the enthusiastic response that ICTMP 26 received reflects the growing global evidence and relevance of sustainability-oriented management practices in research. We received 96 research papers for presentation showcasing rich academic diversity and scholarly depth. Our contributors represent several countries including United Kingdom, Indonesia, China, Malaysia, Bangladesh, and India. Within India, the conference has witnessed participation from different regions and contributors from Maharashtra, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Haryana, Karnataka, West Bengal, Himachal Pradesh, and our home state, Gujarat, have made an active contribution and participated in this international conference, signifying the total inclusive and global outreach that we have been able to make. We are deeply honored to have this keynote address today on day 2 being chaired by Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir of LJK University, Professor Avasthi. His visionary leadership and commitment to academic excellence is the driving force behind our efforts that we have been putting into all the academic activities at LJMBA. So it is now my distinct privilege to introduce you to the two speakers of the day. We have with us Professor Amitabh Kundu and Mr. Narottam Sahu, IS from Guj Coast, who was supposed to attend and address the gathering. Unfortunately, Dr. Narottam Sahu has expressed his regret that he may not be able to attend the session or share his thoughts because of his pressing work requirements. It is now my distinct privilege to introduce our keynote speaker for the day, Dr. Amitabh Kundu, a distinguished scholar and policy expert of international repute. Dr. Amitabh Kundu is currently a distinguished fellow at the Research and Information System for Developing Countries, New Delhi, where he actively contributes to research and policy dialogue on development, sustainability, and inclusive growth. Sir has brought with him rich international experience, having served as the regional advisor on poverty at the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia at Beirut in 2017, and as a consultant of the government of Sri Lanka in 2016, contributing to development, planning, and policy formulation. Until January 2014, Dr. Kundu was a professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, where he also served as the Dean of the School of Social Sciences, playing a pivotal role in strengthening interdisciplinary scholarship and mentoring future researchers. At the national level, Sir has made significant contribution to policy advisory bodies, including his role as the member of the National Statistical Commission from 2006 to 2008, and also as a chair of the committee under the Swachh Bharat mission, directly contributing to one of the India's flagship initiatives aligned with sustainable development and the achievement of sustainable development goals. Sir's ability to bridge rigorous academic research with public policy and development practice make his insights especially relevant to the theme of ICTMP 26. His work resonates strongly with our collective effort to understand how management practices can play a transformative role in advancing sustainable and inclusive futures. With this, I now request our Dean, Dr. Anita Sunil, to kindly welcome him with a Tulsi pot, which is the LJ tradition of signifying positivity and auspiciousness. We are truly honored to have you with us today. We are truly honored to have you with us, sir, today. And I'm sure that the keynote address is going to be an enriching experience and a session which helps us understand, stimulate, and help us critically think and inspire much more meaningful dialogues. I now respectfully request Dr. Avasthi sir to kindly take sir and grace the dais and chair the session. Yes, it's thank you, sir.
Good morning, all the participants, faculty members, colleagues. It's a rare privilege to have Professor Kundu here because he is not easily available. Uh, one major lapse which I would like to indicate from on the part of our faculty member who was introducing, the Professor Kundu is, uh, for us, more importantly, is Professor Emeritus of LJ University. So he is the senior most Professor Emeritus. We have three, but he's the senior most Professor Emeritus of this university for the last 4 years. And he has been contributing a lot. Wherever you find his name in print, it will have a tag of Professor Emeritus LJ University because he writes voraciously in newspapers and wherever there so many committees and his nameplate specifies LJ University. So we are very privileged and proud of this fact, sir, for accepting this position and honoring LJ University because this is very rare that we get person of this eminence and seniority to get associated with universities like LJ University. Today's session is going to be very exciting because the topic which he's going to speak on is quite exciting, because it borders political economy of development. He's going to speak on from political adventurism to a roadmap, business practices for addressing inequality in achieving the SDG goals. Now, this is something which all of us are concerned about. When you talk of SDGs, all those 17 parameters, uh, the, the, the overarching goal is how to reduce inequalities. And one of the factors which will lead to reduction of inequalities will be uh, inequalities, which are concerning for every time we can grow. We are growing at a very high rate. Yesterday I was talking about that when economies grew at the rate of 40%, at the same time 17% was the increase in poverty. What does that indicate? At one place you have increased income and other place you have increased poverty. This can happen only in one instance when inequalities are increasing. And that is what the concern all of us have. So I would just like to hand over the floor to Professor Kundu. I will be sitting there so that I don't want to have pain in my neck to say so. So I will be sitting there and trying to learn from his presentation. Professor Kundu, thank you very much and you're welcome to all floor is yours.
No, sir. It's all right. Thank you. Professor Dinesh Avasthi, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Lok Jagruti University, Honorable Dean, Mrinalini ji, colleagues, friends, and the participants coming from different parts of South and Southeast Asia, and participants coming from all over this country, and the young students on whom depends the future of this country. They are going to take us to Vikshit Bharat by 2047, and I hope that dream comes true. It doesn't remain a political adventurism. First, my gratitude to the Vice Chancellor and the organizing committee for having me, making me a part of this event, and more importantly, giving me this Professor Emeritusship of LJ University. I consider it to be as much valuable as my Jawaharlal Nehru Association. In between, I have been part of various organizations, including UN, but you know, there were constraints. I never mentioned that the moment I have to publish something in the UN system, or when I was an advisor in Sri Lankan government, I have to take permission from A, B, C, D, E. Even within the country, my association with different institutions, put some constraints. I never write political pieces. I never name political parties or individuals, but I have certainly an academic right to be analytical about the programs and the policies. And if you are not doing that, certainly you are not doing justice to your research. So first thing that I asked Professor Dinesh Awasthi, that can I use Lok Jagriti University as my association? And I think 90% of my work in the last 2.5 years, including the latest presentation at National Defense College, mentioned Lok Jagriti University, and he says, this university certainly allows free thinking. Free thinking does not mean nasty politics, calling people names, but certainly being analytical and critical. Now, talking about advancement in, sustainable development goals in the context of management practices means certainly measurement. If you don't make any attempt of measuring it, then I'm sure the Institute of Business Studies will say it is sheer poetry. So let me say that there are alternative methods of measuring advancement to sustainable development goals which are internationally being used. Yesterday we had very rich presentation from the participants from this region, and the methodological issues did come up. If I can have the first slide, is somebody operating it? Or do I have to operate myself? Yeah, the first slide, please. There are 4 different methods which are globally being recognized. First is UN itself measures Sustainable Development Network headed by Jeffrey Sachs. And they bring it out regularly. And as it was mentioned by Nehaji yesterday, India's rank has gone up from 112 to 99. So that's an achievement in a way. And as I mentioned, that all the countries in this region, South and South Asia, are within the range of, let's say, 80 to 110, which is an improvement if you compare it with our ranking in Human Development Index. Now, why did I mention Human Development Index? Because in large number of countries, sustainability is also measured through Human Development Index. Human Development Index has a component of inequality measurement. From 2010 onwards, Human Development Index is coming out after adjusting for inequality. And I looked at the Indian data set. The targets for Vikshit Bharat is generally discussed in terms of human development indicators. And many countries use Human Development Index as a rough proxy for sustainability. In fact, for this presentation, I did a quick analysis of using the Human Development Index and the sustainability of the UN, and I find significant overlap. So that is the second index which is used for measuring sustainability also. Indirectly, it's a very, very well-known index, so that's why it will become more popular. The third if you have looked at the Human Development Report, they make adjustment for overall inequality in health, education, and income. They also make adjustment for gender inequality. If you have higher gender inequality, your Human Development Index goes down. And UN also is bringing out an index after adjusting for planetary pressure. If your development strategy, your consumption pattern is putting pressure on the planet, then your Human Development Index is lowered down. Now, India's ranking in terms of sustainability index of UN is 99. India's ranking in Human Development Index, it improved from 133 to 130 2 years ago. It has remained so at 130. In terms of adjusted planetary pressure, adjusted Human Development Index, India's rank improves because the planetary pressure that India, or for that matter, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Nepal, puts on the planet is much less than the developed countries. So our ranking improves, and all the South Asian countries are in the range in terms of planetary adjusted Human Development Index between 90 and 110. And finally, there's an index, I mentioned about it with a lot of respect, but this is not the official UN index. This is Jason Hickel, professor at London University. They're bringing out regularly. I didn't find the latest one, but 2022 report I was able to see. And in fact, each measurement involves some value judgment, some kind of an assumption, some theory of change is built into the measurement technique. And you will see how they are very different and how they change the ranking of the different countries significantly. Can you go to the next one? So, when you're talking about, advancement in terms of sustainability, one component is material well-being. In India, we're talking about Viksit Bharat. Viksit Bharat is not just taking India's per capita income from $2,500 to $14,000, or maybe that rank will go up. It might be 15, 16, but that is one of the challenges for advancement of SDG or for reaching the target. I looked at the target set for Viksit Bharat. They are more or less similar to that of the Human Development Indicators. India, this is a graph prepared before 3 months. This has changed. India's position was 4th. We have overtaken Japan, and we are 3rd. In 2 or 3 years, we are going to overtake Germany. These are, of course, matters of achievement. But I would like to particularly tell our guests from other countries, India's per capita income is 1/13 that of Japan. Japan's population is less than 1% that of India. And total economy means population multiplied by per capita income. And population of Japan, as I said, is less than 1%. Germany's population is about 15-16% of India's, so much less. And their per capita income is 21 times that of India. But yet, we should be in a position to beat that because our population size is very large. Above us is China. China's population is more or less similar to that of India, and US's income is much higher. Nonetheless, I think it's a significant achievement. But more importantly, there are deficits in other indicators when you are talking about advancement in terms of SDG. Can we go to the next one? Please. Now look at why I said that reaching the income target of 14,000 may not be a big problem, although you see, this is the total income, GDP of India, not per capita, and you see the slope is rising. The rate of growth of Indian economy is shown by the slope of this curve, and you do find that up till 1990, up to 2000, the rate of growth was 3.5%. After that, there has been steady improvement in this slope. There's a dip. This is Corona. This is COVID. 1 year, 2020, there was a dip in the total income. And then I think the rate of growth after making adjustment is slightly higher in the present decade compared to the earlier decade. Slightly higher. Of course, depends on the base. But nonetheless, please go to the next one. Let's go quickly, because I want to have some time for discussion. Is this political adventurism? There are some people think that this India getting into the developed category is a dream put forward. But I think I take it as a commitment at the highest level. There's a political commitment. The roadmap has to be prepared by us, the researchers, the administrators, policymakers. And I would like to say that this is not impossible. Asian Development Bank has brought out 2 reports, Asia 2030, Asia 2050. 21st century belongs to Asia. 21st century belongs to India. This is not a statement made by me. This is from ADB. Look at the forward. It says 21st century belongs to Asia, and India's growth rate is compared to the average growth in Asia is higher. I'm talking about the last 10 years, 7 years, I would say. Now, this is a projection made by Brookings Institute, and the World Bank is using this. It shows the share of manufacturing consumption. The green is for India. At the moment, the share of India in the global consumer durables is 8% less than that of China. But the projections is that emerging middle class in India is going to contribute significantly. It will be 27% of the global material consumption. These are the implications for environment also. But nonetheless, ADB says, yes, it is possible. India will be able to meet its commitment made in the Paris Declaration that will meet the SDG goals, and India will be reaching the Viksit Bharat. It is possible. This is what ADB says. But it is not mandatory. It will happen provided a key concern is addressed, which is inequality. Inequality is a major issue. I will talk about it in somewhat greater detail compared to the other countries in different development categories. Unless the issue of inequality in access to education, access to health facilities, access to labor market, inequality that exists between gender. Yesterday in an informal discussion I was talking about the gender discrimination between castes, and also based on religious identity. These 3 are important concerns, and unless we address it, please go to the next one. I did some sensitivity analysis with this Brookings Institute's model. They have a general equilibrium model, similar to Asian Development Bank, in which they have 195 equations and take all the structural and current parameters. If I assume that inequality will remain constant, immediately your sensitivity analysis says that your share will go down. So major concern for us is addressing the issue of inequality if you are talking about achieving the target of $15,000 or $16,000 per capita by 2047. Next, this is economic historian presentation, Excel. It shows that Asia's share, I'm making it Asia because Asia-centric, because we had participants from there. Please go to the back, last one. Just one before. Asian share in the global income in 1800, it is a historical data. There are some approximations. It was something like 58%. It came down to, Asia's share in the global income came down to 12%. But the projection is Asian share will go up to again 47, 46% by 2050. That's a major projection, again made, the recent projections are made on, with lot of statistical rigor. But as I said, beside income, there are other concerns of sustainability and the 17 goals that we have talked about in Sustainable Development Index. Please go to the next one. As I said, there is correspondence between performance and sustainability and also Human Development Index. Only in Human Development Index, you don't take the environmental factors significantly. But as I said, planetary pressure adjusted Human Development Index does address that issue. Look at our growth rate in Human Development Index. It was much faster in the 70s. In the 80s, there are some approximate methods, but 90s to 2005, the improvement in the Human Development Index was much faster, and it has slowed down a bit. And you do find that although there is an improvement in India's Human Development Index, we have moved up from 133 to 130, but for the last 2 years, our position remains the same. Please go to the other one, next one. There are deficits in the context of our advancement towards Sustainable Development Index. You do find, you see that India is shown with red color, and it shows that the growth rate was 1.24 in the early period, then it went up to 1.56, now it has gone down to 1.22. You see that row, and you do find there are significant deficits compared to the developed. If I had a like as I've shown, it's a high Human Development Index. You have life expectancy, health, we have number of years of schooling for education, and we have mean years of schooling, and also then GDP. You do find that Indian figures are 10 to 15% less than what it should be at this time if India has to become developed country by 2047. Now, go to the next one, please. I just go quickly. I was mentioning yesterday that the concern that the management practices is resulting in achievement of SDGs. At that time, SDG was not there. Millennium Development Goals were being talked about. To what extent it is accepted in Asian countries? That was a job which was given to me by UNDP. I took 9, this is the report. Please go to the next one. This is 9 countries. Sorry. 9 countries I considered and took large number of indicators, which were, although Sustainable Development Index was not being talked about, but we took how the penetration of technology. At that time, we didn't talk about artificial intelligence, but ICT, information communication technology, how it has penetrated in not only the labor market, how has it penetrated into health sector, how it has gone to the education sector, and how it has touched the marginalized sections of the population. We could get the data of telephone users, mobile phones had come up, but very scanty data. We had to make large number of approximations, and we found India was in the middle of the 9 countries. You see that? I did the quick exercise before coming here with the same set of indicators, and I find India is at the top, excepting in 2 or 3 where China is ahead of us. as I said, inequality in India is much higher than that of China, much higher than that of most highly developed countries. Please go to the next one. This is the deficit that you see in terms of the coverage, internet coverage. You see it is much less than what is in the developed countries. These are the targets, and we find the serious deficiencies. Smartphones, broadband, these are all data for 2023, 24. Digital payment, the percentage is 45, it should be 80%. You do find broadband, although we are talking about Software India being the leader in the world in software, still we find significant deficits. Go to the next one, please. This is, I don't want to get into the details. You can get this data. You do find that this is inclusiveness in financial inclusiveness and digital inclusivity. We do find that the account ownership, of course, bank accounts have been opened in the rural areas, but still there are no transactions taking place. So considering that, the deficits exist. Please go to the next one. Basically, the argument is in terms of health and education, there are inequalities. And as far as health is concerned, I must tell you, inequality adjusted index, which was prepared for the first time by UNDP in 2010, it shows Indian health inequalities were something like 38%. Last year, health inequality has gone down to 15%, which is a significant achievement. Educational inequality was 42% in 2010. Unfortunately, educational inequality remains as high as 38%, even down. So basically, ADB is warning that unless you make, Indian labor force skilled, unless skill development takes place to meet the challenges of the changing world, the dream that 21st century belongs to Asia would not come through, given such high levels of inequality. Particularly, I'm talking about access to education, access to higher education. Please go to the next one. Is there a problem? I did one interesting exercise. I looked at the inequality that exists within the country. I'm not talking about across the country, within the country, in terms of access to health, access to education, and access to income. We have the data for the developed countries. There are 4 categories that the UN uses: highly developed, very highly developed, medium, and low. India has graduated to the medium category before 5-6 years. What I did was to calculate inequality in all the 4 dimensions for different categories of countries. Very high. And what is the overall inequality in Human Development Index? For the very high categories is 9.3. And for the Asian countries, it is 17.3. This is for, 2012. And India, it is 28%. Overall inequality. Life expectancy, inequality is 5 in the highly developed countries. And it increases. As you go down, you find inequality goes up. Asian countries, inequality is higher. Less developed countries, low developed countries, I have combined it because of data problems for 2012 and 2018. But you do find educational inequality in India is very high. 40.6, 38.7. It is much higher than any other category. Educational inequality is a major issue in the context of achieving SDGs. I added a slide 3 days ago. We had access to the latest report. Please go to the next one. Please go to the next one. It confirms my earlier paper's results that inequality is less in very high developed countries for all the 4 dimensions: income, education, life expectancy, and overall HDI. India's inequality in education has gone down from 38% to 37%, 36.9. That inequality is a matter of anxiety and serious concern. In fact, as the low developed countries have 40%, India, although it's in the medium category, its inequality should have been in education 35%. It is as high as that of the least developed countries in the world. Please go to the next one. This is gender inequality. Yesterday I was talking about it. Gender inequality in Sri Lanka, Gender Development Index, which takes into consideration the gender disparity. Sri Lanka, this is latest, 0.93. That means some deficit is there. Nepal, 9.2. Bhutan, 8.9. Bangladesh, 8.8. India, 8.4. Well, some people take happiness that we are ahead of Pakistan. Well, certainly that's not a great announcement. We go to the next one. Please go to the next one. Is there some problem in the movement? I tested the hypothesis that lower the level of development, higher is the inequality. Is it true in the Indian context? Indeed, this is the graph for the states of India. There is no prize given for telling which is the red one. Red one is Kerala, which has lower inequality. No, that's sorry. This is overall HDI. I'm saying the drop that you find in the curve, the lowest value point is Kerala. I'm talking about the green one coming down. The sharp drop is for Kerala. You find those states which are highly developed are having lower inequality. You find Gujarat, even Maharashtra, Punjab, Haryana, but UP, Bihar have much higher inequality in all the 4 dimensions, including Rajasthan and Odisha. Please go to the next one. This is an interesting index again from UN system, which is taking Human Development Index, has started coming out with the contribution of 2 great Asian economists, Mahbub Haq and Amartya Sen. These 2 people, in fact, is a wonderful story how they got together. But Amartya Sen was told by Mahbub Haq, he says, you are doing all useless work of welfare economics. It doesn't change the world. And Amartya Sen said, I told him they are working for a wrong government. It doesn't help anyone. So said, let's do something together. So they said, we'll change the competition from warfares and buying new missionaries for attacking and kidnapping the heads of the state. Let's do something on education and health. Let's put Canada and America in the competitive mode in education and health. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh for competition in education. That is the right competition. And what Human Development Index now is doing is to adjust. If there's a high gender inequality, your value will go down. Now look at India's value. This is slightly dated, 2001, because I didn't get the latest figures. India's Human Development Index is 6.65 at that time, or 6.3. The moment you adjust for gender inequality, look at the dip in the value, 4.9, from 6.5 to 4.9. That is the level of deprivation on the gender count. As far as planetary pressure adjusted HDI is concerned, our values goes down from 6.8 to 6.6, sorry, 6.1. It's not that much of a dip as in case of gender inequality. So our planetary pressure results in decrease our human development index by 3% only, 4%. Our HDI goes down because we are also putting pressure on the planet, but that is only 10%, our HDI comes down by 10%. Look at very high developed countries. Their HDI values goes down by 16%, very high, 11%. So more developed you are, more planetary pressure you are putting, and that's why the discounted value comes down to be much less. So that's why I said that our ranking globally improves if planetary pressure adjustment is brought into consideration. Please go to the next one. This is the table I prepared comparing, since much of the analysis that we are doing is based on the human development indicators. Sustainable indicators are not exactly constructed, but I found considerable overlap. The table summary, I don't want to get into the detail, I want to have discussion on the presentation. But basic conclusion that you get from here is the countries which are making advancement in human development index are also doing very well in sustainability index. Although, as I said, human development index directly does not include the environmental factors, excepting the planetary adjusted figures. But in general, we do find that India is doing better than many middle income countries in terms of some parameters, but educational performance is, we have taken a serious dip during COVID period in income, but our dip in health was also high, but we recovered. But educational deprivation which came up because we didn't have mobiles at that time, studies were disrupted, we have not been able to increase our expected years of schooling or the mean years of schooling. So that deficit is significant. Please go to the next one. Yesterday we were talking about the planetary pressure. India is, if you look at the total emissions, obviously India will be very high. Per capita income may be low, but the total economy is third. Similarly, in terms of pollution also, if you take the total greenhouse gases emitted, or I did a study 3 months ago, submitted to UNEP in Paris with development alternatives. This is a graph from there. You find the top one is for North America. The per capita material footprint is something like 18 tons. For India, it is 1 or 2 tons. For Bangladesh, it is less. For China, it was low, but it has now gone up to 5 tons. You see, top one is for North America, the yellow one is for Europe, and all the other countries are much below. So in terms of per capita material footprint, South Asia is doing much better. But the position that we will only go for environment protection matters and ecological concerns only after our average becomes the world average, then it is doomed. Think about 1.5 billion from India and 1.5 billion for China, having average of 10 tons per capita. The world is certainly destroyed. So we have to be concerned about it, but there has to be differentiated responsibility for the Asian countries vis-a-vis the other countries. This is the per capita resource material footprint. The next one is the resource efficiency. The argument which is often given in international platforms is that, look, we are using these resources much more efficiently than the third world countries are doing. Look at, this is for producing 1 dollar of output, you use how much of resources? Our resource consumption is higher because, first of all, the developed countries have moved to a higher technology which has not been passed on. It's a responsibility of these countries to have passed it on. There is no big, large, organization with teeth which can really do that. Secondly, they have shifted much of the production, the manufacturing units to other countries, so that the production base has shifted to the less developed countries, and that is the reason why their material efficiency looks very high. There is the tertiary sector which is something like 50-60%. So that really reduces their material consumption, material efficiency, and our material efficiency is low because the transfer of technology has not taken place. Now, since I want to have discussion on the different methods, let me present the methodology given by University of London. This is Jason Hickel. Please go to the next one. India's impressive performance in Sustainable Development Index, 1990 to 2019. I got the latest for 2022. I didn't have the time to make the adjustment here. But let's look at what is the trend in sustainability performance of different countries of the world. If you measure as per the framework developed with a group of academics, not the UN experts at the University of London. What do? They said, yes, if you are high consumption, if you have 2 houses, polished buildings, 5 cars, air conditioners, of course, your material well-being goes up. It goes in the numerator. But it should also come in the denominator because there is the consumption pattern puts a burden on the resources. So this methodology takes consumption pattern in the numerator as a positive factor, but also the ecological footprint comes in the denominator. And that changes the graph completely. Please go to the next one. Look at Sri Lanka. Here, it's at the top, but globally it is second. Next, India, it is 55th position. India, so imagine India going up from 133 to 130 to 110 to 99, and then here it is 55. Bangladesh is slightly below. Pakistan is also there, near about. It is China which has taken a dip. You see that the green line. Canada is much below us. United States of America is still below. In terms of, this is called Sustainability Development Index. I'm not saying that this is accepted by globally. They will say, oh, you are defining it in this manner. But nonetheless, the value judgment involved is clear. We have to examine to what extent we can consider it credible. Now, be careful, look at the graph very, very carefully. The next one, which is coming, which shows the movement over time. There are, please stay there. No, sorry, next one. And don't move further. Next one, stay there. You see, the countries have been placed into 6 categories. The green, the top category. The yellow is next one. Then there's a brownish saffron type. And then dark red or dark brown. That is the worst category in terms of Sustainability Development Index. And where does that occur? Look at this. It is Australia, US, Canada, and parts of Africa, right? India is not in the worst category. China is in a better category in 1990. India was in the 3rd category. Bangladesh also more or less at the same level. This is 1990. Now we go to 2019. Please press the button. You see the movement is taking place. we reach 1990. What happens to Australia? Same. What happens to United States? Canada? Same. India has improved its position. This is not a work done by the Ministry of External Affairs or by some enthusiastic journalists. This is some framework which is certainly pro third world countries model. China has gone down. Earlier it was yellow. It has become brownish. Many of the countries in Africa were having dark brown because their numerator was very low. They're consuming less resources, but the outcome indicators were very low. There you take education, health properly, and they have improved. You see their dark patches have disappeared from Africa. But nonetheless, you do find things have changed over a period of time. Indian ecological performance, although we know that there are serious environmental degradation, and we can't say, look, we should be allowed to pollute till our average pollution level goes similar to that world average. That is nonsense. But nonetheless, there is some improvement. Please go to the next slide. This is all the countries have been shown. The dark spot at the top is United States of America. There is a line which is parallel to the horizontal line. The countries which are below that are consuming resources within the country. They are not dependent on the resources brought from other countries. Their ecological footprint remains within the country. This is 1990. United States is well above that. Their resource dependence on the rest of the world, their ecological footprint is much higher than that of their own countries. And the two big circles, China and India. China is ahead of us. This is a slightly larger circle. 1990 population was higher. And this is the situation in 1990. Now, we see how we traveled to 1991. Please go to the next slide. You see, United States came down, little bit. But it remains more or less the same level. China has crossed the limit. This is the situation in 1990. Asian countries, most of them, are below the parallel line to the x-axis, which means they are using their resources within the country and not really dependent on the import of resources from others for its development strategy. So that is the kind of story which is emerging. There are different ways of looking at it. I'm not saying that sustainability concerns, resource use, efficiency are not serious concerns for India. Certainly it is so. We should be. I remember when I was teaching at Woodsburg, a young lady stands up and says, Professor, you have been telling us that it is the responsibility of the developed countries to, provide the technology to compensate for the global warming which has been created, because 90% of the greenhouse gases in the environment is because of the developed countries. Tell me, my great-great-grandfather had never heard of greenhouse gases. It was not illegal at that time. So how can you hold my great-grandfather responsible for a sin or a guilt committed because it was not recognized? Secondly, even if it did something wrong, why do you want me to pay for it? So that was the kind of question which is being asked. At the moment, if you say per capita consumption is much less in the less developed countries, the world is not prepared. The total emission is very high. I think we have to make, in all platforms, including the report that we submitted to UNEP from the Indian side, led by Development Alternatives, says, yes, there is a serious case of the world trying to provide technological support so that the less developed countries are in a position to increase their resource efficiency. Resource efficiency is how much of resources are required to produce $1 of output. So that has to be there. But at the same time, India has a responsibility. It has to showcase that if we want exemption for any restriction on resource consumption, we're using that period of exemption for reaching the sustainability goals, for reaching out to the poor, for constructing roads, providing schools and health facilities in the remote areas. If you show that, yes, our per capita emission will go up, it has to go up for the next 10 years, but it is going up because we are trying to bridge the inequality. We're reaching out the poor, marginalized sections of the population. And that is the justification that we have provided in that report submitted 3 months ago, that yes, there are serious inequalities exist in per capita consumption, per capita resource use. United States and Europe had continuous increase from 1980 to 1990. From 1990 to 2005, there was a dip in their per capita consumption. There was some concern. But what is alarming, we have pointed out, is that there is a significant rise after 2005 in per capita resource consumption by the European countries and United States of America, whereas Asian countries have done much better in terms of reducing, maintaining their level of efficiency and marginal increase, but the output efficiency is much higher. That's why our performance in the Sustainability Development Index goes up. We have to continuously, at the global platform, make this argument that per capita gaps which exist today is a historical factor, and that has to be rectified. It's a global responsibility. I hope the global institutions become stronger over time to be able to convey this principle of natural justice in the context of environment. Unless UN acquires strength, what would happen is some individual may try to capture the UN system or replace it by having some kind of a committee. So we ended our report by saying that United Nations have a great responsibility of bridging the gap in the resource efficiency and also the per capita resource consumption. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Professor Kundu, for a very enlightening address. The things which were still not very clear, you have made them clear and exposed us to new methodologies where we were not. I was not aware. Some of the younger ones might be, more savvy. So they were much better, but the kind of things which are on the drawing board are frightening. We have achieved some. We need to achieve. I reserve my observations at the end of the session, but I'll certainly encourage all of you to ask questions which could be clarificatory or could be ideological, both ways. So please, floor is open for questions. And Professor Kundu, you will respond, I think, in one go, if you want. Yeah, bunch of questions and. Yeah, so anyone wants to start? Starting trouble is always there, During winters, in cars or scooters also there is starting trouble. In asking questions also there is a starting trouble. First question is difficult to ask. Then things follow. So may I have first question, please?
Thank you, sir, for the insightful details that you have shared as far as Human Development Index and the Gender Development Index also. But we would like to listen from you, what are the interventions that policymakers can to minimize the gender development index that exists in India and for other poor countries as well, particularly speaking about the female gender's participation in economic activities.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh, Good morning, sir. My name is Manish Patel. My question is, India is home to one of the polluted cities in the world. Like there are a couple of cities, they are polluting, and they are the most polluted cities in the world. And the question is that they are definitely sustainable development goals. For example, air pollution when we talk about. And when we say the hierarchy, there are 17 goals to be achieved, but I don't see any hierarchy in them. For example, when I talk about a hungry person, if he's not going to contribute to the economy, right? And let's talk about when he's able to work, he's contributing to the economy, but he's not going to contribute to the polluted economy. So definitely the clean environment is getting a higher priority compared to the hunger. So is there any hierarchy whenever these UN is coming up with this kind of SDGs? Thank you.
First time think, I mean, the presentation was so clear, but I am finding it difficult to ask any challenge him. One is methodology is his forte, so you can't challenge. Articulation is remarkable, so I know it is difficult to, but the questions, but anybody else, if you want to ask some questions. Rakesh. Yeah, Professor Rakesh Basan.
So, I was not aware of the London University. I was not aware of the London University methodology, and I had not seen those numbers. I was just wondering, what is the politics between the UN puts out and what the London University puts out? Is there a conversation going on between the two to come up with something which is acceptable to? No, I'm just saying that I was not aware of the London University methodology and their estimates. But behind the scenes, do you know of the politics between these two groups, the UN group and the London University group? Are they talking to each other? Are they thinking about coming up with something which is acceptable to both? Because it changes the numbers dramatically, and it can change the narrative about the discussion on the environment quite significantly. So is there something happening on that front?
My questions are more political economy, so you don't necessarily answer.
I heard a discussion between Amartya Sen and John Drays. You know, Amartya Sen says that gender violence in India is not that high. He said reported case, if you take the global index of, this is brought out by an organization in Geneva, out of the top 50 countries, India doesn't figure. Because they go by the available statistics of gender violence, crime against women, which in India reported values are much less, because 95% of the gender violence in India takes place within the household or in the neighborhood, not in a public domain. It doesn't get reported. So Sen was saying that even if number is 5 times more, Indian gender violence will not be reflected in the official statistics. But I think the real gender violence, and of course, it is true that if it happens within the household, there is all kinds of method by which you don't report that. But murder, that cannot be, and that figure is also not very high. I believe that the real gender violence is denial of women in the public space. I was mentioning yesterday that if there are 100 graduates, males, how many of them will be not working if they are in the age group of 30 to 60? I don't know many men who are not working in the age group of 30 to 60. Unemployment rate will be very low. But do you know, out of 100 graduate women, how many of them are working? Only 34. Rest of them are just keeping their graduation degree at home. And that is not because women go out in the labor market, ask for jobs, and they're not given. That also happens. There is a gender discrimination in the labor market. Employers said, well, my efficiency will be affected. Well, their excuse is there, but large number of women say that, sorry, we're not interested in jobs. This is not deprivation. We don't want to work. You know, I have quality of life improves. My family doesn't allow. My caste doesn't allow. Who will look after my children? And you know, all these arguments come up, which is not there in Germany, which is not in France, which they are not in the Netherlands. You talk to people, he said, this is a joint responsibility. I did a study on gender discrimination. Sorry, India Discriminates. That was the title of the study, where we covered the discrimination across caste, across religious identities, and across gender. The highest discrimination is for gender, both in the rural and urban areas, basically because there's a denial of opportunities to women to go into the labor market. And as I said, there's visibility. It's difficult for women in the Indian context to be inefficient. Because I know in my university, many men typists or even professors will go out and nobody would notice. But if a lady doesn't come for 3 days, oh, it's a lady. If there's an accident, oh, it's a lady driver. So you don't need to investigate any further. So this mindset. Now, what should government do? Certainly, there has to be incentives provided, and which is being given. I think there's a Supreme Court judgment. Some lady was denied some leave for maternity purposes, and the Supreme Court has come down heavily. He said this is certainly serious discrimination. The government measures are there, but I believe that our civil society has to work a lot more. In Bangladesh, frankly, I have noted the civil society is very, very active in promoting gender parity. As far as the hierarchy, the UN system, keeping this resource use, high resource use inequality, which was declining for some time, for about 10 to 12 years. But latest trend is that again it is going up. Per capita consumption in US of resources. You know that there are ways by which I looked at the data set from 1980 to 2024. Perfect data for all different kinds of material being consumed. There's a weightage system by which you add up, and you find that US and Europe, both of them are not doing very well in the last 10 years. They said, to hell with our social commitment, my great, same as this lady was telling me. And I'll tell you, since I looked at the data carefully, I found there's a bias in the reporting of the data. For example, waste management. I find many of the Asian countries are doing very badly. What kind of data is this? All these informal ways and recycling that Asian countries are doing. Some box you have purchased for something, that box is being used for something else. It doesn't become garbage. Reuse. And all the community-based, village-based initiatives. The data system completely ignores that. It has to be municipal reported figures, which is reports, which shows 70% of our garbage is thrown in a very, very unhealthy manner, which is not the case. We took some case studies which showed that, yes, certain amount of garbage is thrown openly, but rest of them are going through some kind of a process. You would be surprised the way the UN measures garbage, per capita garbage consumption. This is World Bank's report 2023. It's called Water Waste. They took sample of 5 cities in India, all class 1 cities, and collected data from households per capita waste and applied it for all urban areas. I can't believe this, that there is no distinction between class 1 city and class 6 town in terms of per capita wastage. Total, of course, will be higher, but per capita remains constant. And the rural areas, half of urban. I think it's absurd. I wrote it, that this kind of a biased data generation can only give a depraved kind of a picture. You are really putting the responsibility of unhealthy garbage disposal on the less developed countries. And you say, look, for producing $1 of output, United States take 3 cents, whereas in India you take 21 cents. So, better, we should use the resources, world's resources, than you're using, because you're using wrongly. But that is because of the kind of ecological footprint that they are able to pass on to the other countries. So there has to be global awareness, but at the same time, India and the other developing countries in Asia should be able to show that, yes, we should be allowed a period of exemption. Our per capita emission and resource consumption must go up. Otherwise, we will not be able to meet the sustainable development goals. But we should also show that, yes, we are using the extra resources for meeting the sustainable goals, for addressing the issues of infant mortality rate, child mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, school dropouts, and remote areas, different societal, deprived societal groups. That, if we can say that, we don't need a monitoring by international agency, but we should be accountable to ourselves. There is a interesting argument which was given by a professor in Bangkok. There was a seminar. He said, Professor Kundu, I agree with you that rich should pay more according to the resource that you are using, but a millionaire in New York should pay the same amount as a millionaire in India, in Kolkata, or in Dhaka, or in New York, or Berlin. A rich person should be penalized. So if that is acceptable to you, then the UN system should move forward. That's a very, very dangerous argument, which really means that unless you follow our instructions about your taxation system will be determined by the UN, that you have to have these taxes, then only you will get. That is our freedom. But at the same time, that freedom we should use judiciously. You can't allow the UN to decide what should be the Indian tax rate. These are Indian political decisions. But nonetheless, it is indeed true that the richer sections of the population in the Asian countries do not pay the environmental cost because they take advantage of the lower exemptions, and that is certainly an issue which we ourselves should address. We should introspect and see how we can really use the increased resource use for the benefit of the marginalized and the poor, and for achieving for better performance in sustainable development goals. And I think the management practices become very important. So yesterday, many of the young students were coming and asking what kind of management we should do. Management should mean not just maximizing the profit of your company. I remember in Lucknow, a professor came and defined entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship? And he quoted a Sanskrit line, which I learned in my childhood. What is Udyam? Udyam is entrepreneurship. He said, Udyamena hi siddhante karyani na manorathai. Matlab, it is not by your desire that you achieve the goals. It's only through entrepreneurship. Nahi suptasya singhasya pravishanti mukhe mriga. A sleeping lion does not get a deer in his mouth unless he shows entrepreneurship. So after he finished, I asked this professor of business economics, he said, is that a fair entrepreneurship, that example that you have given? A lion and a deer, you are discussing entrepreneurship of that lion. What about the entrepreneurship of the deer which is able to escape? You see, do you want the big companies to destroy the small companies by eating them up? Shouldn't we have some Gandhian principle of entrepreneurs being trustees of the world? So I have a feeling entrepreneurship has to be defined slightly in the context of SDGs that our Vice Chancellor was trying to do yesterday in terms of concerns for employment generation at the lowest level. Entrepreneurship should not be really, making the profits for your company. And that, of course, has to be there. Profit is not necessarily a bad thing, but that profit, I know in Europe, many of my colleagues in University of Würzburg would not put their money to get 7% rate of return, which is very high. They would say, I would prefer to give 5%, provided that company tells that we are working in Africa for development of the poor, and that money is going for there. So you can announce that, look, I am buying bonds from there, get a lower rate of return, but I am doing something. But I don't think anybody, whenever I go to a bank, I say, which one, kitne din ke liye karu, maximum rate of return. We never ask who is in taking the money and for what purpose it is being invested. There has to be a consciousness on gender front and also on the environmental front.
Just
Uh, uh, Professor Kundu, all the data that you put across was post-dictive, and somehow the data was so nice, the evaluation was so sharp that it gets me curious that in India, what happens next? Is India going to probably achieve all the SDGs the way you are predicting? Number one. And second thing is that at times, if as a layman I look at the SDGs, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं conflict आएगा. अगर हम रीजनल डिस्पैरिटी इनइक्वालिटी हटाने जाएंगे, रोड्स क्रिएट करेंगे, कनेक्टिविटी लाएंगे, तो इकोलॉजिकल इफेक्ट्स आएंगे. तो कभी मुझे ये भी लगता है दैट एसडीजीज एट टाइम्स माइट कम इनटू कॉन्फ्लिक्ट विद ईच अदर. सो योर ऑब्जर्वेशंस ऑन दीस 2 पॉइंट्स, सर.
The UN system has its own data generation. And I tell you, this is certainly very, very biased. The way I can talk about it, since I worked on this, what's called circular economy, and the index which is given for the Asian countries in the UN data system is very, very low because they go by the formal municipal data collection. There are different informal ways by which in the rural panchayat level they do it, and none of them are accepted. And it is absurd to assume that the rural waste is half of that of Bombay, Delhi, or Allahabad. These are the big cities which have been taken. You take half of that in the rural areas, the waste generated is very high. And of course, you take zero as waste disposal. So that is a very biased picture. You try to point that out because there is a strong, global power which says that no, we don't go by per capita figures, we go by the total figures. And the kind of data that they are putting up, saying that our efficiency is much higher, we need 2 cents to produce $1. These are all because of the historical past and the passing on of the burden. So I really don't think that, I'm surprised that the Jason Hickel, I wrote to him a letter, he was saying he's having difficulties in pursuing it. The latest report has not come out. Again, I'm saying that the methodology that he's using can be questioned. You are taking all the, he said you're taking poverty measurement. If you don't use electricity, that's an index of poverty, not of, ecological support. If you don't have schooling facility, you don't have bicycle only, obviously it's a sign of poverty. All the indicators are poverty indicators, not sustainability indicators. That kind of a criticism comes up. But I am quite sure that the kind of bias which exists in our Jeffrey Sachs index, which places India as 99, which is certainly not the real figure. If you bring the educational impact in a multiplier sense, which University of London does, the well-being of health, it's a different kind of weightage which is given to health, infant mortality rate. So if you do that, your numerator gets adjusted. In the denominator, you are bringing in ecological destruction pressure. So the Asian countries are doing very well. Sri Lanka is number 2 in the world in terms of the London University's index. So I have a feeling that may not be accepted, but it should create some kind of a pressure on the world system to rethink. Now the point, regional disparity, sustainability goals, if you try seriously to address that, would it slow down our growth? Now, as an empiricist, I would like to look at the data, and I think the data should not be short-term data of 10 years, right? You know the black swan story that you go by, sorry, if you go by short-term index, the chicken will think that the most kind person is the person who feeds, because he has the experience of every day being fed. He doesn't know that after 3 months what would happen. So you have to take a long-term view. The black swan tells us, and this came up in debate between Amartya Sen and our Montek Singh Ahluwalia. Montek was emphasizing on economic infrastructure, road, electricity, and also more efficient manner, smart cities, that's what would promote. Amartya Sen says that historical evidence, and he quoted extensive data that some of the students have done, shows that a long-term view of 30 years says that unless you make investment in social infrastructure and improving regional balance, your growth gets compromised. Are you aware of a major argument coming from Harvard Business School? Danny Roderick. Danny Roderick talks about premature deindustrialization. Many of the developing countries are getting into premature deindustrialization because of the regional inequality, because the local demand not coming up. And I think our Abhijit Banerjee has done some work to show that India may fall in the trap, but it can avoid if you create internal demand. Take a somewhat longer perspective, and you have raised a very important empirical question. But I do believe that regional inequality, high inequality, I did the sensitivity analysis. If inequality remains constant, certainly India's growth scenario becomes different. It becomes less than what was predicted. So that is what I would say, that we need to do a little more empirical work seriously. Thank you.
We start the next session, and I'm getting signals from the organizers, so I will just reserve the debate between you and me for tea or in the evening. Thank you very much for your very, very incisive organizing comments. And so it has, I'm sure everybody will agree that this has been the most educative session we had so far.
Yes.
As far as SDGs are concerned, this has been fabulous. So thank you very much, Professor Kundu, for your presentation.
Thank you very much, sir, for the insightful guidance and details that you have expressed and shared with us on Human Development Index, Sustainable Development Goals, highlighting gender inequality, disparity, and also emphasis on infrastructure development parallelly so as to take the country forward. And I'm sure not just the audience gathered in the room, but even those who are attending online have been benefited by this. And in fact, it gives me immense pleasure to share with you that scholars who have attended the session online have praised your session extensively. I would like to read out few of the comments that we have received for this session. One of the comments came from Dr. Anjali Dhananjay Trimukhe, who attended the session from IIM Mumbai. And ma'am says that today's lecture on the Sustainable Development Goals was insightful and inspiring. The speaker clearly explained global challenges, local responsibilities, and practical actions. The session increased awareness, encouraged critical thinking, and motivated us to contribute meaningfully towards achieving inclusive, sustainable development goals in our academic and personal lives and society overall. Sir, there are many such positive messages. Dr. Abha has also showed her appreciation for the session, and many more scholars online are appreciating the insights here. So with this, I'll now request Dr. Siddharth Singh Bist, our director, to kindly felicitate our speaker, our keynote speaker, Dr. Amitabh Kundu, our own Professor Emeritus LJKU, with a memento as a token of our appreciation and gratitude for his presence and insights. Thank you so much, sir. With the permission of the session chair, Professor Avasthi, sir, with session chair's permission, I now request all of you to kindly gather us for tea break. We'll be gathering again at 12 for the next panel discussion. Our experts are already here. Thank you so much, everyone, for your presence. Students, you are requested to kindly
Welcome to the second session on day 2 of International Conference on Emerging Trends in Management Practices 2026. After a very insightful keynote speech by Professor Amitabh Kundu, now we are ready for an equally exciting and interesting discussion on how high-impact sector measure, govern, and deliver ESG outcomes. A discussion on ESG is crucial because it can be said that ESG is where global goals meet and real-world decision-making by business and investors. While SDG sets the vision, ESG provides the measurable framework to translate that vision into accountable action. So we were very keen on having this discussion, and for that, we requested our governing board member, Dr. Sunil Parekh, sir, and we are truly honored, sir, that you accepted our invitation to design the panel and moderate this important discussion. Let me have a privilege of introducing Dr. Sunil Parekh. Dr. Sunil Parekh, sir, is a BTech from IIT Delhi. He is a man of truly diverse interests and has vastly contributed to varied field, including industry in India and abroad, social sectors, public policy, academia, entrepreneurship, culture, startups, and research publications. Dr. Parekh is a senior member of Zydus Group Pharmaceuticals, Jubilant Group, Board of GVFL Limited, CSIR at Jorhat, and trustee at CERC. He was an invited speaker delegate at COP27, that is organized by UNFCCC, that is the Conference on Climate Change in Egypt. He helped establish the first startup policy in Gujarat, a pioneer in India, in 2014. He was involved in the making of India's first national design policy of India with NID. He is involved deeply with several NGOs and is on the board of various universities and has published 2 major contributions on Gujarat industrial development with Oxford University and ORF, Brookings affiliates, which is affiliated to Brookings. He is founding curator of AGS by WEF Geneva. He has been recognized twice in the top 100 top eminent personalities of Gujarat, awarded the prestigious OCND National Award by his alma mater IIT Delhi in 2014 and the ET Icon of the Year in 2018. Dr. Parekh is the founder chairman of Pan IIT GAA. We are really honored to have you, sir, over here. May I request Dr. Bilwa Singh to, Bilwa Desai to present Tulsi pot and welcome him. Dr. Sunil Parekh was also gracious in extending our invitation to our esteemed panelists on behalf of us. And we are privileged to have 3 eminent speakers from the industry, which has years of industrial experience in sustainability norms and compliance measures. Our first panelist is Mr. R.S. Shankara Subramanian, who is a Vice President, ESG, Torrent Group, Ahmedabad. Mr. Subramanian is having 30 years of experience in the field of sustainability and environment, driving innovation in ESG practices, exploring new opportunities for sustainable resources and value chain management and environmental monitoring, environment legal compliances, environmental management programs like technological improvement in the processes of ensuring the better environment, establishing the environmental system, procedures, material balance, air pollution control measures, green belt development, and landfill management. So with such wide experience, obviously he's also been instrumental in preparing several industrial reports and he's also been awarded for that. We are truly honored to have you, sir. May I request our Dean, Anita Sunil, to present him a Tulsi pot and welcome him. Our second guest is Mr. Ankur Doshi. He is director with Power Waterhouse Cooper. He is visionary and strategic techno-commercial professional with 20+ years of experience in senior leadership role with leading companies globally. He brings a rich confluence of strategic thinking, entrepreneurial spirits, strong business acumen, and technology expertise in domain of sustainability, urban transformation, and emerging technologies. He has been active and in contributing on Government of India's flagship program like Smart and Safe City. We welcome you, Mr. Ankur Doshi. May I again request Dean Anita Sunil to welcome him by offering a Tulsi pot. Our third guest is Ms. Archana Thosar. She's her professional experience of 24 years, with 21 years extensively into the retail branch banking. That's where she started her career. She started her career with as a tailor and elevated up to becoming the regional head of Yes Bank Rural Banking Divisions of Gujarat. As an ex-banker who understands a business from the perspective of client service and meeting up exact requirement of end user, now she has moved to become an entrepreneur herself. She has started her own venture called Green Maneuver Industries, where they incubate the ideas that complete the loop for client to get best product and value for money while ensuring all deals are done keeping unit economics positive. The green maneuver industries is mainly involved in manufacturing of compostable packaging. We welcome you, ma'am. May I again request Dr. Anita Sunil to welcome her with a tulsi pot. May I now request Dr. Sunil Parekh, sir, to escort all the speakers to this dais. And the stage is yours. Please take over now.
Hello, hello. Stage makes you feel as if you have to now get ready to perform, you know. So friends, it's been a delightful 2 days for all of you. This is the second day. And I want to thank Neha profusely for coordinating this entire program, this particular panel, with lots of ideas. We went back and forth with what we should do with this and how should we best present. And we came to the conclusion that we will discuss this issue at 3 levels. Ankur will give us the macro picture of what it means to be part of the SDG program in India and what is the overall impact that the industrial sector is going to have as a result of wanting to comply with the standards and the goals of national development, the NDCs. After that, we will have Shankar. Shankara is actually from Torrent Group, and even though he's from Torrent, he has worked in Reliance, he has worked in Vatsi. I mean, he's worked in almost all, you name the giant that is there in Gujarat and otherwise, and he has worked. Today he's with Torrent, but ArcelorMittal also, he spent a long period in developing, and that's a steel company, which is one of the areas where it has been targeted by Government of India to reduce the emission intensity per ton of steel that has been produced. And he has done wonderful work in that as well. And the last speaker is the other extreme of the large company, and that is a startup. So Archana has a startup and her products so we will display the products here. So all of you, before leaving the room today, see the products that she has made, because it makes it live and real as to what her green venture is all about, called Green Maneuvers. So I welcome all the 3 speakers from my side. And by way of opening comments, what I want to say is that industry itself generally has gone through quite a bit of challenge in the last 3-4 years. And so one of the challenges, of course, has been the big problem that we had with the COVID, where there was discontinuity and it was a major disruption and nobody had actually taken risk management seriously in big companies and small companies. But it was a wake-up call, and I think a lot has changed as a result of that COVID experience. Then, of course, we have these tariffs, then we have the wars, and so on and so forth. And as a consequence, industry has, my view is, industry has come out stronger for it after all the problems that has been faced. And the forces that are shaping Indian industry today, the primary one I think today is the digital transformation, and now of course especially AI now. The reforms that are reform-oriented policy that the government of India has announced to support industrial development. The demographic dividend that we have is actually panning out, and we have a short window of opportunity in India to develop industrial to the level that the China and some of the other countries have done. There is selective external globalization still taking place. The traditional sources of supply chain are disrupted, but no country makes everything that they need. So there are new alliances that are being formed every day. And the last, which has brought us together here, is industry is continuing to face sustainability pressures, which reduced quite a bit during COVID, because people said, forget about environment, get your raw material and get your supply chain organized so that you can sustain in business. But now I see a complete change back to the original agenda, and most large corporates have been pursuing their green agenda all through this difficult period with reasonable amount of success. Today, on the SDG index, about 58% of the company, sorry, about 98% of the company are at 58 level, 58% of the 100% target that has been set under the sustainability index for large corporates. Only 2 companies in India have crossed the 80% mark in terms of compliance. So clearly there is a way to go. And this transformation is what we are going to talk about with macro view from Ankur and 2 different kinds of view, one from large corporates and one from small. So with these small words, I would like to ask Ankur to start with the first question, that we want from you the big picture in India. How is India playing its part in the SDGs and in our environmental commitments? What does it mean for industry, ESG, EHS at a macro level? And then please take us through these steps as you see them.
No problem. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, LKG University, for inviting me. Thank you. Hello, am I audible? Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Wonderful, great. So thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Sunil ji, and August professors. So I'll start a brief about myself and see how things are panning out. So I have around 2 decades of experience, which has been said, but during these 2 decades, I've learned a lot working across the globe that earlier environment was our last priority. Chalega, whatever happens, plastic, okay, we'll take plastic, nothing happens, we'll throw wherever we want. Then we see, and when we went across the globe, they were a bit mature economies, they were not throwing plastics like this, they were trying to measure carbons. And then gradually we saw in India Swachh Bharat mission and everything start coming up. We started talking about carbons. You would all have known energy ratings on your electrical appliances, and then we started buying them like that. So what happened is India as a country started observing and seeing that maturity, that okay, it is very important for us, and most of them it has been inherited from our Western partners, right? The global West, that's what we call it. So all these things, when it came up, it really taught us that something needs to be done about it. And fortunately, in the last 10 years or 15 years, there has been a significant shift here. We as country has signed to COP. Sunil ji has been a speaker there. There have been a lot of conferences, a lot of global alliances by United Nations and anything that India has signed up, because it was not just a sign up, but it was a responsibility that India has to take, being the most populous nation in the world, being the 3rd or 4th largest, probably 4th largest economy and going to be the 3rd. It has a lot of imperative on it. And hence what it did to us is that it told us that, you have to have certain, you have to have certain norms, certain rules and everything for it. And hence we started developing the standards, and we pushing our industries that ESG is not a niche word anymore, but it is a global imperative for economic development in India. If we don't do it, we'll not survive. Investors come in India, they'll look at the ESG score. You students, probably as you are getting such kind of maturity early on in your careers, you will work for, you'd like to work for the companies which are ESG mature, which treats humans well, which treats West well. So all these things people understood, and they started thinking that humko kuch karna padega. And that's where India, one of the first countries in the world to launch BRSR norms. What is that? So SEBI, we all know SEBI. So it mandated 1,000 companies in India, listed entities in India, to have some mandated disclosures. Earlier there was disclosures, but these disclosures were like, okay, someone is saying that I am reducing this much carbon footprints, I am preventing this much emissions. So there was a structured and standards which were brought in place. And it was BRSR norms. It had 2 things, mandatory and voluntary disclosures. Mandatory disclosures are what is the quantifiable aspect of it, how much of water you will save, how much of energy you will save, how much emissions you will reduce, And mandatory, voluntary is, okay, I am pledging to do this. And it all came into a very structured format. And when it came into a very structured format, it became very important for companies to exactly disclose. And we at PwC, we usually help our all the companies in the entire journey together, right? From planning their targets, how to reduce emissions, how to report them, and there is an audit also. So whatever I'm reporting, is it true or not? So that is a very important aspect that India, one of the few countries and one of the prominent countries in the world, has built an entire ecosystem, right? So since we're talking about the ecosystem, Government of India has placed some goals, because it starts with from top down. So you would have all heard about our Panchamrit goals, right? India took a pledge that while we are not just signing to UN or COP, we are taking a pledge of becoming carbon neutral by 2070 and having 50% of our energy sources from renewable energy by 2030. Well, not 50, but probably we may reach to 30, 35, but at least the momentum is there, the push is there. So then what happened is, it made all the more senses to push all the laws, to push the economic values through it, and then have all the important and top large conglomerates working on it. So Sunilji just mentioned the steel plant, the cement plants. All these things are very important because they have been a prime contenders for doing a lot of emissions. So this is what is very important, that how you can build a structured economy. Whatever has to sustain has to have an economic value. So what we did, India Indian government, when it looked at the ESG as a problem, they thought that, okay, we need to have regulation. But are the regulations enough? Tell me, are regulations enough for us to govern? Yes or no? You need an economic thing for. So they started green financing. They started an ecosystem where the credits can be taken up, the credits can be traded, borrowed, and there was a monetary value to it. So immediately what happened is, an incentive came to the companies that, okay, we are not just doing it, we are attracting stakeholder wealth, we are attracting investor wealth, we are attracting good talent, we are attracting good people, and we are having a brand loyalty to us. Now that's what is a full equation. And I'm sure my colleague from the Torian group, he'll speak more about it. So that's very important for us to see how an ecosystem is built for anything to be successful. And India did this. Finally, I will not bore you to death for ESG part of it. So there is a ESG, we all know, environmental, you all know, social and govern. So just I'll spend two or three points on govern part, and then I'll rest my voice. In the govern, what happened is, we always used to say, okay, conviction se karna hai ya karna hai, right? It is like, I have to do it or I really must do it. There was no cause. So it's just like, think of govern like a pedometer, right? Earlier we used to just walk and calculate our steps. Okay, I have run 1 mile or I've crossed 5,000 steps. But now the trackers, they tell you about your sleep, they tell you about your vocabulary, heart rate, and everything. That's what you have to start thinking now. That it's not just ESG, that I just have to come and tell and do some disclosures. We have to become, have enough conviction to say that, okay, I'm not relying on outputs, but outcomes. What are outcomes? Planting 10,000 trees is not an outcome. But planting 10,000 trees and having the water table recharged, or having soil conservation, that's an outcome, right? A global apparel giant, it was having a serious issue in its supply chain. What did they do? It would have been easy for them to change some suppliers or have a rule book, and probably it would have done with their disclosures and the reporting. So a flashy report is not important. What did they do? They went back, trained 10,000 farmers in regenerative agriculture. What it did to them? 20% reduction in chemicals, 30% reduction in soil, in water uh, consumption, and 20% improvement in the soil structure. Now that's an outcome. So we have to start thinking that, are we just doing for outputs because there are certain things mandated for us, or are we doing something that we are really committed for the environment? And I'm telling you, make no mistake that in going in future, this will become an imperative for us. It has already become, but it is a must imperative for us. If we don't do it, we'll not be successful. So thank you, sir. And
Thank you.
I rest my voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankur, for giving us the overview. He's right. Today it is 500 companies, listed companies are covered under BRSR, which is the Business Responsibility, Social Responsibility Mandate. Now, SEBI has said that they will extend it to 1,000, 2,000, and then finally to all the listed companies. Now, it's not only limited to listed companies, because a listed company, if it has to qualify under the ESG score, all their suppliers, which are small scale industry, not large, their customers who use their products under scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3, everyone has to go through the system. So while it is limited to 6,000 listed companies, it covers maybe lakhs and lakhs of MSMEs through this system, which otherwise would have been very difficult to monitor. If the government sets out or SEBI sets out to monitor MSMEs, difficult. But the large company can easily demand from its vendor that you have to comply. So we believe that this is a good, stable and sustainable system itself to make sure this transformation happens. So thank you, Ankur, for the overview. Shankar, may I come to you now? You have a wealth of experience in very large companies. You've gone forward with this. Give us a 2-minute breakdown on what is the kind of nature of work you are doing and your reflections on this topic, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, LJ University, and thank you, Parek sir. Is it okay? Yeah. Thank you, Parek sir. Thank you, Ankur bhai. Yes, basically industry initially evolving, I just initially in the industry focus on finance. Is it okay? Hello? Yeah. Industry initially, yes, 80s focus on finance management. Slowly then we came with the production management, obviously with the support of Japanese TQM and other concepts. Later, yes, when the industrial growth accelerated, then we thought about the human resource management. Now we are in a situation we have to come for a sustainable management. Yes, for except told, actually last 10 years, we are aggressively by the regulation and we have to obey sustainability requirements and everything like BRS or other reporting. But when the regulation only will not solve the requirement, self-discipline. Basically, earlier company I worked with the Japanese. So they used to ask, why Sangar in India is the regulation is very so stringent. In Japan, we used to take approval for 3 months or 4 months. In India, it's taken nearly about 1 year or 2 years. Sir, I told Japanese having a self-discipline. If they anything committed, they go beyond. So what we are committing, we'll try to avoid, we try to maneuver. Yeah, sir. So basically the self-discipline is a critical for India as we are growing. So that is critical for sustaining our industrial growth and our Indian growth. And yes, obviously before 10 centuries, we are the civilized and sustainable society and we explain to the world. But due to other factors and everything, we are lacking. Now as government is supporting and government is insisting, we are improving. But industry, yes, Ankur bhai is told related to the BRSR, and I think actually we are coming with the BRSR reporting and we are performing all the sustainable parameters against SDG goals and everything. And it's a brand competition, how you want to sustain, how you want to improve your brand. And thanks to the modern communication and the WhatsApp and other things. So any minor negative aspects are highlighted in flash like anything. So industry, obviously, we are very careful. Though we are doing a lot of work, it's not coming out, and thanks to BRSR, it's coming up. And thanks to BRSR and other reporting aspects, and the industries are comparing with the peers in the Indian level or the international levels. So how to improve? So these aspects are coming. So we are working, all the industries are working towards mainly currently on the well-being of employees, the first focus. Basically, employee well-being is the one SDG goal we are working. Next, we are working on innovation, but we are not at par with the international level. For example, came from a pharma industry. Our R&D expenditure is not at par with the international R&D thing. So we are trying to go for a maximum cost cutting and other things. That area, yes, from an industrial side for innovation and R&D, we need to spend more, this one area. And obviously, thanks to climate change efforts taken by this government, and luckily, the solar energy came in and economically viable. So India is improving. Like Geo changed the communication. Basically, we got a affordable communication through Geo. And solar also one thing. Same way, if we are expecting for a hydrogen, if the hydrogen clicks economically viable, then India in a good place and comfortable place for energy also. So these are the areas we are industry working, and we are expecting a management and technological supports to improve further.
Thank you. Archana, over to you. Just give us a brief introduction to you and your company.
Okay.
And then give us your view about, when you started the organization, what were your thoughts behind it? And what was your motivation to do it?
So I'm Archana. I'm co-founder of Green Manure Industries. We are manufacturers and suppliers of compostable packaging, bags and films. This is an environment-friendly alternate of single-use plastic. As we all know, single-use plastic remains in the environment for thousands of years. Once this compostable packaging has a good shelf life of 1.5 to 2 years, as good as plastic. But once discarded and it comes into a close contact of environment, etc., it starts decomposing and it gets composted in a span of 4 to 6 months. So, I had a wonderful job at hand, paying a handsome salary with bank. And one fine day, environment is an extreme need of each and every human being. I'm sure my daughter is same age as the students sitting here. She's 20, so I'm sure I can relate to you all. So if I'm not passing on a better environment to the next generation, I am not adding any value to the world by just living over here. So yes, पैसे तो कमाने ही थे, हर एक को कमाने होते हैं, but you should add some value to the world. So my partner happens to be BSc Agri, Mr. Manoj Parihar. And since we went back and we found a product which is environment friendly, which helps, the circular economy get into a mode wherein it can sustain on its own. That was the reason we found out this product, reached out to good number of corporates, and thanks to the wonderful way they treated us and warmly accepted our products. And the way back also we went to our plant and factory, because whatever culture we start on day one remains with the organization forever. And that is how we started our plant, with minimal wastage, reusage of things, etc., etc. And that helped us building up a good company.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an inspirational story. When you listen to startups, you get inspiration. When you listen to big companies, you get perspiration. So, Ankur, over to you. You've done a lot of work with a lot of companies. And in your broad experience, without going into the, or maybe a few examples also, what are the key challenges an industry faces when they are faced with the task of reducing their water requirement, their energy requirement, their need to go green, and to treat their employees in a very systematic and coordinated way, in a better way, and then also have board practices like frequent board meetings, having the minutes recorded, and following and complying with all the regulations. What are the challenges in actually implementing these?
Well, the biggest challenge is यार एक और चीज़ आ गई, right? So See, any regulations is unwelcomed. Any discipline in our life is. Hello. Okay, great. So it's loud and clear. Any discipline in our life is always unwelcome, uncalled for. Any regulation is uncalled for, and we see that क्यों आ गया ये, कैसे आ गया, and why, what was the need for it, right? But it's for good. Things change. So the business environment is changing, economic things are changing, and so far we have been harnessing our fossil fuels, our environment like anything as it belongs to us, and you know, in 5 years you will see a stretch of land gone, trees cut, and big buildings coming up. So it's a lot of pressure that we are putting it on our environment. You are seeing global. अभी निकलने से पहले weather देखते हैं, पहले कभी नहीं देखते थे कि rain है कि नहीं है, right? It is all now. What happened is some wise brains in the world, they were saying, and now gladly a lot of people are adopting that no, it has to be taken more seriously. So the challenge that the major all the companies face is the data quality and availability, because ESG for ESG you need to have right kind of data. The data sources are not recorded. Some formal, all the big corporations have proper employees and their turnovers and their shifts managed. But like Sunilji said before, that there are a lot of suppliers, a lot of logistics players who don't even know who are working for them. What is the age group? What is the gender diversity? How can you manage such kind of thing? You cannot go and manage every company. So probably the data availability and the data quality has been a major challenge, and I'm sure Shankarji would agree to it. It's really brings perspiration to actually have that data managed. The second thing is this compliance comes at a cost. Earlier, some HR team or someone, okay, chalo tum bhi ESG kar lo. It was a side role. Okay, it was like, you know, sitting in a plane and looking outside from the window. Now the role has changed. You have to sit in a cockpit where there is wind, where there is pressure, where there is altitude. Everything is in front of you. Now you have to steer the ship, and it comes at a cost. You have to have an ESG officer. I'm glad, I was very, very happy to read Mr. Shankar's card that he's a designated ESG officer and vice president of operations there. It brings the commitment, it shows the commitment of the company. So all the big companies then have a challenge of putting a cost. Now this cost, where does it come from, right? You have to make it into your finances, your budgeting, and everything has to be done. So that's the second challenge that the major companies face. The third challenge is the growth dilemma. So if you put 1% spend or 2% spend on ESG, it really brings your profit down. It really brings your expenses down. So it's growth versus green dilemma. So these dilemmas have to be actually addressed. And how? So in my earlier part, I said that you have to build an ecosystem around it. So that's where these three are major challenges that that the companies in India face. And fourth one, which you can say, is the plight of the people. The people who are working for us should be happy. Labor laws are followed. Labor laws are never followed. Most of big companies does that, but small companies, even when you will go in your corporate, you will feel that yaar main 60 घंटे काम कर लिया इस week में, right? And you would have just seen in Indian government saying that if you work for 48 hours in a week, you should not be able to work more. So all these things are coming. The nation is going there, and it will take us some time to do that. Investors, good thing. Now that's about the challenge. But now the global investors, the FIIs, the domestic investors, they are now accepting ESG as a part of expense. Earlier it was, मैंने आपको 10,000 crore दिए हैं, 20,000 crore दिए हैं, give me the value out of it. Now they are ready to say, okay, out of 10,000 crores, 50 crores, 100 crores you have spent on ESG. That's right. That's environment, because that shows the value of the company. So this green financing, green bonds, debt instruments, RBI's regulation, and RBI's telling banks to create green financing frameworks is very, very good. So we are coming there. But these are on the brighter side of the things. Challenges must remain, and they will remain, they shall remain, but we need to figure out how from these opportunities which are coming up, how can we beat those challenges and try to see that, you know, we are doing something good on the environment, social and governance fronts.
Thank you, Ankur. To Shankar now. Shankar, when you are trying to deal with hundreds of suppliers, in Zydus we have about 7,500 suppliers and 3 lakh SKUs. You know, and each one of these units you have to make sure that the supplier and the product is ESG compliant. It's a huge exercise requiring technology, requiring training, and then, you know, aligning of their interest and your interest and the communication that is required in order to make a group like Torrent or a group like Zydus really green in that sense. Now, this is a big challenge, dealing with so many people. They don't have their own resources. So what is the kind of model that you feel has worked and is likely to work in greening the entire supply chain, both from the supplier side and your customer side?
The main topic currently all the industry we are struggling is the supply chain management data and the ESG data collection from the supply chain management. Is it okay? Yeah. Is it okay? Yeah. Yeah. Supply chain supply chain management is a very headache for us. Basically, one way actually government is encouraging for a local employment, and we have to go with a local rural business opportunities. So when they are coming from the villagers, if you are asking for a high level data, CO2 emission, water conservation, all the jargons, they'll run away. So collecting the data from the rural businessman is difficult, is one thing. First, having the data management is a difficult first. If the data is okay, then we can focus on which area we have to work the second. So now we are focusing on how to get the 100% reliable data, at least for the main suppliers. So government is coming with even the BRS are also they are supporting the major suppliers. Those who are supporting more than 2% business individually for the company, maybe the major suppliers, major buyers. We have to focus on that major supplier and customers. That, yes, obviously we are coming. First, we are starting with the awareness. We are interacting with them, what's the area and everything, where they can able to improve everything. As I mentioned about the pharma actually basically the warehousing and the sourcing, how we can able to integrate and how we can able to work along with other pharma, other industry, and deliver the product along with other in a economic way and green way. Like as an individual, I am coming in a car, the CO2 emission is high. If I am coming in a shared vehicle, coming in a metro, the CO2 emissions are very low. Same way when we are distributing our products with other manufacturer like Amazon and other, the same way we are exploring. But how it will success depend on the cooperation and everything. So that we are exploring. And parallelly, we are interacting with all the supply chain partners, go for a green way. Whether the storehouse, the warehouse, or their vehicle, or their system, automation and everything, that we are advising them. But it will take a time. So, and we are planning to go for incentive, we are planning to go for support wherever possible. Suppose if the customer is having a 1-year contract, they cannot able to afford to go convert the normal vehicle to e-vehicle. So then we have to go for a 3 years or 5 years long-term contract, then they can go for an investment to convert normal to e-vehicle system and other system. So these are the way we are taking an initiative to improve our supply chain management, more environment friendly or less GHG emission intensity.
So one quick question to you again. About 3 months ago, we had come across a startup who is now helping us monitor our factories from space. And you know, this is a new technology, a new application, it's an old technology. Are you thinking of doing anything like this in Torrent, where you take images from the above to, you know, to support the data that you are collecting?
So for Torrent, pharmaceutical and main power, actually that's not much required on the satellite imagery monitoring. But obviously in the previous organization I worked in a steel complex. Steel complex normally having a huge vast complex, more than 500 acres or 10,000 acres, nearly about 20 to 30,000 people are working on, nearly about 4,000 to 5,000 vehicle movement. For a safety purpose and other vehicle movement, we started using the AI and satellite imagery. So basically we want to control and everything. So slowly we want to extend, and earlier company actually we worked with a Japanese partner and a European partner. They started and AI-driven camera for fidget emission monitoring and dust monitoring. So the cameras installed in the elevated position, the cameras are connected to the AI-driven. So through that, actually, where the sudden abnormal emissions, what is the root cause and everything, it is giving alert to the plant operation team. That already we are exploring. Now Tata and JSW installed, and ArcelorMittal also they are started installing. So these are the technology they are using for a road safety purpose as well as for the plant fidget emission control.
Thank you. Thank you. So Archana ji, you are a startup. You have devoted so much time of your life in a cause that you have believed. How easy was it for you to navigate the economic environment as a startup? Did you get support from markets? Did you get support from companies? Did you get support from the various government schemes that are aimed at helping young startups?
Yeah. So very aptly put up, sir. And without a support to a startup, the journey becomes really very difficult. So our plans, our clients were, I was very fortunate that we closed our first client as Big Basket. So it was extremely overwhelming for us while we started our plant. Our client was already in place. And first couple of years, definitely everyone has to remain bootstrapped, but eventually the banks do come forward very nicely when it is an economic, environmental, subject. So they offer you CGTMSE. I am very glad to inform you that UCO Bank came to us, and that was the highest CGTMSE they approved across the industry, which was, and their approval limits up to 5 crore rupees to a startup. And that helped us a long way to go. There are a lot of subsidies that the government allows you. Interest subsidy on a loan up to 5%. There's a capital subsidy. If you want to put up machines, 50% of the machinery cost comes to you as a subsidy from government. There are a lot of things. If you want to import machines, then you get a delayed payment of GST and import duty. So it is delayed up to say 6 years, extended up to 2 years. So if you are exporting to the same tune, then you don't need to pay that import duty and GST eventually. So there are various such exemptions and support systems that are given to a startup. If you are booming up in an environment initiative thing, and if your startup is definitely giving a positive outcome that anyone will definitely get into if it's an economics. Our company, was a break even at the end of, and once we started in 4 months after we started. So we had achieved, working break even in four months. And we had an unit economics positive at each and every, product we sell in the market. That helped us, our banker, very well, keeping faith in us and keep on growing the credit limits that he was extending to us.
So this was a round of applause. 4 months mein break even is fabulous achievement. I'm sure Siddharth, Dr. Bisht here will find this example very challenging in terms of what he's the father of startups here in the college, having initiated it more than 10 years ago, But very creditable, really very nice. So coming to you now, Ankur, you said that the expenditures that are involved in monitoring and delivering, it costs about 1 to 2% of the profit. So it may be a small percentage of your turnover, but in terms of the profit, it becomes significant. Even 0.5%, 1% is important. Now, at the end of the day, is there empirical evidence to show that by doing the right green thing, you are able to command a better premium in the market in terms of pricing? Are you able to access better customers? Are you able to improve your export potential? Are you getting better employee retention and you get into the great places of work? The kind of rating that you get. And do you get cheaper finance at the end? So in other words, this investment comes back to you in a bigger form. Is there evidence for this? Because everyone tells you this, but is there evidence for this that it actually works and that green pays? Your views.
Okay, I'll keep my closer to my mouth. Is it audible now? Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Sunilji. A wonderful question. I quickly start with we all know, right? US pulled out of COP and it's no. So US says that it's okay, we'll go. And those who have traveled to US, they even have one plate, they'll put it into a dishwasher and let it run for 30 minutes, right? That's how they have lived through their lives and probably trying to exploit. The Europeans were more intelligent, and France, Germany, they all have been environmentally sensitive because they know that they have limited sources of things. And then India, because we were not a mature economy, now we have had. So we all would be, what I'm coming to is that giving these two civilizations which were understanding that there are limitations on the fossil fuels, we entered a free trade agreement, right? That has been termed as mother of all deals very recently. What does that bring to us? Any company from Europe or any investors from Europe, if they have to come to India and establish a plant or do a partnership with the plant, they'll go for a thorough ESG screening. Because for us, it is an option, for them, it is an imperative. What it does, sir. So if a Reliance has to submit or give something to Europe, of course it opens up a lot of business opportunities, but at the cost of what? They'll come and say, okay, give me your ESG score. Torrent Group, if they have to send medicines or whatever they produce there, okay, show me your score. Now tell me, it is now not a extra cost that we are looking at. It is an imperative, or it is an important investment that I have to make in my business. So we have to have that mindset switch now, that now it is not an expense, it is an investment. So that's the first thing that I'm here to say. It's not an expense, it is an investment that you're doing in your business. All right, so that's the first part of it. Second part of it is the people that work for you. We all want our people to be happy, right? But while for the profits and something, we take a trade-off. In the era of social media, when all these people put a post that healthy work-life balance, we amazed to work this company, what it does, when let's say, and there's an evidence for it, that when one of the, I'll not be able to name a startup, it's a very very niche space tech startup. They wanted some funding, and they were trying to get some funding from Europe for last 2 years, and the funding was held because their timesheets said that their employees were working for more than 60 hours a week. They said that the raw materials that you're supplying is from an unorganized sector which is employing people below or children below 18 years. They were saying that the offices that you have is not green enough, because they were startup, they were great at technology, they were great at everything. So now they had to work 2 years to improve their supply chain, to understand where they are getting things from, what is the quality, what is the packaging they are coming from. Hopefully Archana will supply them in future. But I'm saying that it's very important to understand what are the ingredients, where they are coming from, how they are coming from, how you are treating your people, how you are governing everything, and how you are reporting everything. If it doesn't come, it doesn't. So if anything doesn't get measured, doesn't get reported, doesn't get actioned on. So it's very, very important for all of us to think ESG as an investment. All the banks are giving green funds. All the banks are mandated to give loans for the green economy, green finance. SEBI has come out with green bonds, wherein you can take out green bonds, cities are taking green bonds, companies are taking green bonds, and it's a way of getting investment from the people, from the investors, and investors look at as an important prerogative before investing, that how is your ESG, how are you doing on your ESG parameters. And all the more very important for this trade deals and other trade deals, whenever they happen, the market ESG will be an important ingredient for it.
Thank you, Ankur. So Shankar, back to you. Now some practical questions. It's a large organizations. You are head of ESG. You have to work with all your factory people. You have to work with across departments, whether it is sales, whether it is marketing, and say several stakeholders. If you do well in your job, you get the credit. If you do well in your job, all the factories who have to give you data are not recognized in the whole process because there is no direct communication between them and the management. How do you handle the team aspect? How do you build teams working across functional areas where they have no explicit role to support you, where they will not get any visibility? How do you build teams in organizations for this kind of a function?
Basic motivation only, sir. When we are going for a ESG conference or any award function, actually as a ESG team, we will not go first. So we will take the operation or production who are contributed in the last year. So we will take them chance. So they will lead and they will be felicitated outside. So basically the motivated. And that is a platform, they will expose what market is doing, what other industries are doing. So that's the way, this one way we are doing. Other thing like this conference, like this interaction, normally ESG team will not attend ESG team alone. Basically, we'll take our critical people where required, they used to go. And apart from this, we are going with the exchange, interaction exchange program, like when we are engaging a PwC or any consultant, we are taking all the stakeholders. So they involved in the participation and the improvement and everything. So basically, ESG is a coordinator. ESG is not a leader. ESG is not taking an authority role. It's a coordinator, basically. That way we are driving. So it's giving a results, basically.
We also have this issue, now we are going to have climate change. We are heading for disasters. Now we will have heavy rains, we will have droughts, we will have floods and all kinds of precipitation. We don't have much of snow here. But sometimes surprise snowfall also takes place in the northern part of India, well in excess of what is regarded as safe. Now, when you have existing factories which are located in dangerous zones, for example, low-lying areas, near the coastline because of some benefit was being given, or you go to Baddi because there is an incentive to go to Baddi. But nobody has looked at the environmental and the climate change dimension of the impact on existing investments. So I'd like, Shankar, to your opinion and also yours, because you have worked with many companies. What do you do with existing investments that are at high risk?
Currently, with the Taran Pharma, actually, we have a facility in Sikkim and Bati. And Sunilji about the Bati quite okay. We have a connectivity even for a worst climate scenario also. But Sikkim, yes, obviously last year flood and everything. So accordingly, management having the inventory instead of 1 week, they are going for 15 days or 1 month. So basically, we are increasing our inventory, so liking our money. That's the one way we have to sustain the operation and sustain the production. This is one way we are doing. And the other example, actually, like earlier still our companies, we used to go for establishing the factory in the near the mines or any remote location, basically the coastal. Basically the volume of raw material handling goes nearly about 5 million to 10 million in some time. Some manufacturing facility like JSW, Tata handling the raw material and other material comes nearly 50 to 60 million. So the transport is huge and the cost. So accordingly they will place a factory near coastal area. So coastal area and everything. Last time we planned for a one major establishment in Paradip. Paradip is prone for cyclone. So when we went for, we want to go for a mega factory, they clearly told, why don't you go for cyclone prediction modeling? Nowadays modeling software available. IIT Kharagpur, other institutes are there doing a modeling. So based on the modeling, how much cyclone in another 50 years, 100 years expected, considering the climate change. Climate change, they used to, the model considering the 4D or 5D worst scenarios. So accordingly, they predicted. So accordingly, we have been recommended to increase the site level plus 3.5 meter. So the project cost nearly about 5% of the project cost, nearly about 50,000 crores for a 6 to 7 million steel plant establishment. We need to spend nearly about 2 to 3,000 crores site development. So that is the level of investment for future ready, mainly for the climate risk. We are all the industry and obviously in government also aware and many all the
Just can you have a look at that mic? It is giving some disturbance. So Ankur, over to you, the same question.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So see, an investment made is made. A lot of money has been spent. What needs to be done, right? So first thing that your company does is scenario analysis. What is the best case, worst case, and what is an average case? And then they understand that how are we dependent on that investment. If you are a company and that's your major production plan, then probably you will do a disaster assessment that what all things can come, how they can come, and how bad it can impact them, and then they tend to de-risk it. So in a scenario where the plants are multiple, they try to offset the production and increase the production capacity going forward into some other plants, and so that their business risk reduces. Number one. Number second, what they do is they start doing a lot of protection, protecting the plants. So basically, how can they, for flood, how can they prepare? They can they can put a lot of dig wells where the groundwater gets recharged fast, or if it's lightning, or if it's heat, they do a lot of put a lot of district cooling systems, other things. But Mother Nature is the furious. You cannot deal everything, but most of the things are pre-analyzed. Like seismic zone, they'll never put a plan because they know that it's inherent. But something which is coming as a climate risk, probably they can mitigate it to 30-40% and try to see that how we can actually live with that and try to protect it, and then diversify it into the other places, other suppliers, and second, the next thing that they do is the insurance part of it, right? That's where green insurance, green financing, other thing comes up a lot. They try to insure themselves, and it's at a business cost that, if something happens, how are we de-risking ourselves, right? And then the third thing that they do is they can utilize the plants for doing something which they can make some quick money out of it. For example, if I know that the failure is inevitable, these machines are not going to last, or the area is going to get submerged, how can we transform, or how can we do certain other jobs which can really help us to make quick money and do away with this infrastructure? So and this happens to the industries which are 50 years old. Not last decade or 10-15 years old industries will never do that, because they do proper modeling. Like Shankar sir said that they do logistic modeling, they do climate modeling. Most of them have they do, and then they put it in a proper place. So it is true for industries 30, 40, 50 years old, but for all the recent industries, they do a proper modeling, proper insurance, and proper value proposition is established before putting such a investment in the plants.
Thank you. I want to share an experience after the Bhuj earthquake, which Gujarat experienced. The government of India, at that time, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and the Chief Minister here, Keshubhai Patel, gave massive investments for the industrialization of Kutch. Now it is a very high zone for earthquakes. It is the highest across Gujarat. So about 3 years ago, I had raised this issue as to how safe are some of our investments in Gujarat, especially those which are now very critical. So that time people said that we were trying to build a Singapore in Gujarat by having a port-led development in Bhuj, where you have a lot of access to the port facilities for export, import, and industrialization has taken place on a massive scale. Power projects, Tatas, Birlas, Goenkas, everybody is there. It's over 60-70,000 crores of investment came, primarily driven by the excellent tax incentive that were given at that time. So the assessment shows that almost 40 to 50% of that is at risk today. And now the question arises that even though it was known that it was a high zone, earthquake zone area, Why did people not build all the buildings and infrastructure to suit that level of, calamity? And now compounding the problem is that in case if there is now an event as a result of climate change, then the things are likely to get compounded. So we require, as Ankur was mentioning, a proper, resilience building strategy for each of the units to make sure that before something happens, you are prepared for it. Abandon it and maximize in case if it is not recoverable. But otherwise, make sure that your investments become safe. It requires attention, it requires investment, and some amount of foresight and planning. So back to you, Archana. Please tell us, for the benefit of all the people who are here and who are online, what are the few projects or few areas or sectors in the field of environment that are profitable and where startups can make money the way you did by breaking even in 4 months?
So we have heard Ankur sir and Shankar sir, there are a lot of things, lot of reportings. If we go back to, our parents, your parents or say my parents, there was a lot of sustainability that was practiced in the house itself. If you are, following those smaller footsteps, eventually when you grow big professionally, it will be very easy for you to understand at a company level कि ये भी हो सकता है. So ESG or BRSR reporting is not something which is, out of this world. It has come from our daily practices, which is framed into a legal framework. So there are huge number of opportunities for any youth to look into the avenues into this format. A lot of greenwashing happening, in CO2 reporting and all those things. So if you are actually, coming from green manure, I am of an opinion that if you are giving client exactly what he wants and you're delivering quality well within timelines, the client will definitely come to you, if not today, after a couple of years. So if you are doing the CO2 reporting by doing the actual job and not doing any kind of greenwashing, eventually your company will grow, and the age and the stage where you are, you can definitely have some amount of time on your hand, you have that time on your hand so that you can wait and you can grow and flourish very well. Precisely, sir, every borewell, I believe, should have a rainwater harvesting. Correct? Because आपका मोबाइल रिचार्ज करने के चार्जिंग करने के बाद कितनी देर चलता है, 8 hours, 10 hours, if somebody uses less, 24 hours. It needs to be recharged if you want to use your mobile. So if one of you is having a good command over government authorities or something, get a law done that every borewell that is there in your house should have a rainwater harvesting. Do that business. That is the biggest business one can do right away. And there are so many things one can do in rainwater harvesting, growing trees under a CSR initiative, lot of things that one can do. Basically, this is a huge opportunity. A lot of thought process needs to be put in, and things can be worked out well for you. Only your mathematics has to be very strong, wherein the Excel should post profits eventually.
Sir, my experience actually in the steel industry, normally every ton of steel, nearly about 0.8 ton of waste is generated. 15 years back, the entire waste was disposed in the plant or nearby area. There is no value addition, maybe 10% or 5% come for a value addition. But last 10 years, there is shortage of space, lack of area, and government enforcement. Now 95% of the waste, basically nearly about 1 ton of steel, along with that 0.7 ton of slags, other things are value added. Earlier organization, we used to, initially it was 50 crore annual income from the waste. Now it's went up to 600 crores. So waste is the one area, lot of innovation came and lot of technical support came, and government initiative, and the way volume of generation is giving a practical and viable economic support and developing a new business model also. And in that also, nowadays actually the waste recyclers are coming with a excellent supply chain aspects also. So they are taking and that also they are getting a economically benefited.
There is a beautiful word coined at COP meetings. It's called WOW, W-O-W, wealth out of waste. And really there are 2 books that are available on this subject. which gives you about 50, 60 specific projects that you can do where there is a ready market for the product. The challenge which I want to pose to you is, I remember about 15, 20 years ago, visiting cards made from pulp, recycled pulp were available. The problem was it was twice the cost of the plastic cards. Now nobody bought those cards. So sometimes when you say raw material is free, but the cost of bringing the raw material, processing it, and getting it ready to the same level of quality or better than the other product is necessary to be economically viable. You may be able to touch the heart of the customer by saying it's a green product, pay 5% or 10% more. But if you have to pay double, nobody is going to pay you. So therefore, it is extremely essential that when you create these wow kind of projects, you keep your eye on the economics of it as much as the appeal of the green product in itself. So Nehaji, we started 15 minutes late. So can I push for 15 minutes or I close at 1:30 as you want? 4-5 minutes? Okay. So question is now towards the end of the session, we have done lot of blah, 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 blah. Now question is, कि ये सब green करने में कोई finally what is the benefit to the company? What is the benefit to the economy? Economy you handle, Shankar you handle what is the benefit of implementing BRSR and the green agenda for the company? And Archana, you can interpret the topic the way you like.
You want to start first? Okay. Hi. Yeah. So, from the economic perspective, it's very important that it shows trust globally that we as a nation are responsible. And it will reflect in our economic data that if we have to grow sustainably around 7-8%, then it is very important for us to get a lot of business, lot of consumption. We are a lot of consumption-based economy, and exports also are very important for us. So if we have to do a lot of export, and if we are not ready from the ESG data and ESG perspectives, tomorrow the global bias will shy away from us. Around 15, if I'm not wrong, 18 to 20% is of our GDP comes from our exports, manufacturing. So if that's not there, we'll stop actually growing, and it's a major economic dent that will happen. The India-Europe deal that happened, ESG was a major component to it, and all the companies who see market in Europe are now going to get themselves ESG screen, and they are now saying, how do we get the data, how do we change our suppliers, how do we put our logistics in place, and how can we go green. Same thing which all deals in future that we'll have, it will be very important for us. The last part here is that if we don't look at ESG as an investment right now, so without investment you will not get any profits. So you have to start looking, and you have to start ticking the green economy thing, right? You have to start the companies, let's say Torrent Group, if they are doing well, probably they can start issuing green bonds, Torrent green bonds. So sorry, I'm taking your example, but because I see a responsible company, I see a responsible ESG office, if they start, they can start putting shareholders, they can start giving shareholder wealth, and then they can start trading carbon credits. So it's very important that if we take this as into the entire economic circle, it will boost domestic consumption, it will boost domestic wealth will do further investment, create jobs, and hence the entire economic cycle will get a boost. So it is very important for domestic as well as export-oriented economies if India has to sustain its growth momentum, grow further, give jobs to the people, and ensure that we continuously spin the wheel of growth. And one last thing, since probably this will be my last part, you all are students here, right? And you must be thinking and scratching your heads, is ESG ka hum kya kare? Hum to abhi job karne ja rahe hain market mein, right? So it's very important, my friends, that we have an inspiration sitting here. If you are trying to do something on your own, this is probably the best sector to start working in. Join some of startups, think of some startups. There are a lot of funding available. People like Ashna can help you. Mentors like Sunilji can help you. Second thing is never shy away from technology. I'm saying lot of us, when I was in college, well, I'm a technical graduate, but lot of people think, yeah, technology mera kaam nahi hai. Why should I go into technology? My friend, can you tell me, can any one of you work without a laptop? Can any one of you without how many of ChatGPT, the way it has penetrated in our lives, we have never thought any other faster penetration will help. Probably Dolo dissolves faster than it, nothing else, right? So I'm saying that never shy away from technology. Take technology, breathe it, because it is not it is a very important living skill for you now. So these two things, I'll rest my voice, but start looking at ESG as a career. See how you can fuse technology with ESG and try into three things. If you are into social aspects, see how you can do social justice, you can do labor laws and everything. Environmental, how you can do sensors, reporting and everything. Governance, you can build systems, modern ICCC's dashboards, using technology where you can help companies. So ESG is a very serious career, very long way to go, and for the next foreseeable 40-50 years is going to give you money for the investments of your life that you're going to do into it. Thank you.
So I just want to add an example to Ankur, and that is Delhi, where the ESG system has completely failed you. You have been screwed on pollution with beyond limits. What is the reason? They call it parali, which is the burning of the farmers, the crop. The second is the construction that is going on a massive scale, government expenditure and private expenditures in terms of civil constructions and others. And the third is the vehicular pollution. Now these three aspects have got the city. Now tell me, who is going to bring investments to Delhi? Who is going to go and live in Delhi? So is the economy going to work without ESG? So this is an extreme example of failure of governance, failure of recognizing that how important it is to drive home the point that it is an imperative today. And you have a live example in front of us where we have royally screwed the entire the city and its surrounding areas. So over to you now, the benefit.
Point before, India is the third largest emitter of CO2 emissions in the world. So it's a very important data point. There will be pressure from the global economy on reducing it. Try to take this as a use case and try to work around it. And that will be a very excellent career for you guys. Thank you.
Sir, for your Delhi case, I got opportunity with 50% hike in Delhi, but I can't afford the health situation. I refused. Thanks to Ahmedabad for Commonwealth and Olympics, they are improving the situation, so we are comfortable here. Yes, sir, related to ESG performance, initially, yeah, earlier when then about the only, and nowadays they are going for a background verification with lot of habits, alliance. Even Gen Z, how they are evaluating the partners, more parameters. Same way, industry used to go with only financial performance. Now they are coming with a environment, social governance and everything. Like example, maybe 6 months back, Bira, the beer, they could not able to forecast a legal risk for changing the company name. The private word they changed, but they could not able to continue the business for 6 to 8 months because of the required approval and everything. Same way, Apple phone subsidiary Foxconn, small social issue. They could not able to manage their women's hostel. It's created a production cut for 2 to 3 days and the brand image, everything. So nowadays, risk not only in the financial, everywhere. So as a holistic to approach for the business sustain, environment, social governance, so we have to check. That performance only giving the benefits, and any risk in any area, it will affect the overall business down. So that is a nowadays critical. That's the reason actually ESG is evolving. And ESG is not authoritative, it's a coordination. Is all the people used to take the ownership. Basically, like earlier we used to kill our culture. Same family sanskruti. Same way we have to, as a factory, we have to take the, in industry, we have to take the ownership in all the aspects.
Archana ji.
My way. Thank you, sir. So there are two things I would like to tell about this. Like sir also said, there are companies, who have to do BSR, BRSR, etc., etc. So there are bigger companies who come to our plant to check how is the production facility ongoing, what are the measures that we have taken. Though we are a very small company, we are an MSME, but they appreciate the smaller efforts that we have taken, to ensure that the environment is, considered while we are growing and growing bigger. Like we don't use water at our plant for any kind of manufacturing facilities. Being compostable product, it doesn't emit any bad gases or something like that. Third and most important thing, it was extremely difficult for our printers, to put a printing on the bag because the ink used to smell very bad and that used to affect their health. So we simply moved to water-based ink. And such smaller things helped our people to work quite well. Their health hazards were completely removed. We ensure that whenever the workers want to stay at our place, because we give an opportunity to disabled people, we give an opportunity, equal opportunity to female, male, everything, from the day one we have put up very properly in our plant. And with this initiatives that we have taken at our plant, there are, companies like Ashok Leyland, companies like Bangalore Airport, TTK Prestige, they invite us in their presentations and they have put it up to a level that OEMs who will implement and take up such compostable packaging into their day-to-day routine or their packaging formats, only those will be, given an opportunity here on for presenting any innovative products or, product enhancements. Otherwise, the normal, whatever we are buying from you will continue, but those who are, moving towards environment-friendly atmosphere and taking smaller steps, whatever possible, they will be, given an opportunity to go ahead. So, maximum bigger companies do work with us, so they come for their regular audits. And when they see such smaller steps taken by us, they ensure and they go back and implement it, and they invite us to present, to show us our product, showcase our products, and get it implemented at their OEMs and their own plant.
Thank you. So friends, we are now coming to the close of this session and we'll open it now for questions. He represents the macro picture in India. She represents a startup who's working in environment. And Shankar represents Torrent Group, a large corporate that is involved in SDG implementation. So the floor is open. Shoot. Yes. Can you speak loudly? Then we don't need the mic.
Hello. So my question is to Ankur sir. Is corporate governance the weakest link in ESG adoption in emerging markets, including India?
Well, you may not say it's the weakest link. I would say it's the only link that you can do, because the corporate governance is it starts with the corporate governance, right? That how much you have to invest, what you have to govern, how you have to change your suppliers, what is the profitability targets, how are you going to trade off. So it's upon the corporate governance whether they want to make themselves as the strongest link or the weakest link. So they are the body who have to decide that how much compliant they have to do. They have their skin in the game. For example, I'll give an example. If I am the chairman of the board and I can say the CEO and CFO salary will be directly a product of the reduction on the carbon emissions or the ESG credits. Now that's where you are having a responsible corporate governance. And you will say, okay, I would want to see that no default should happen on the BRSR laws and my report should be filed. That you can say as a okay link. And probably there will be a corporate governance where say, it's okay, we don't care. Another 10 years, no one is going to harass us. Or we'll do away with some reporting, some paperwork. That's the weakest government. So it's about the mindset of the corporate governance that they have and the kind of mandates they do in a company. That's very important.
So my view is you are absolutely right. Governance is the weakest link in the implementation of ESG in large corporates today. Unless it is mandatory, nothing happens voluntarily. These laws have been there as part of BRR and then had to be changed to become mandatory under BRSR in order to ensure that implementation takes place. Once the mandate is there, people find innovative ways of achieving them. But it is necessary that these companies need to be forced, either financially or otherwise, through legislative methods to actually achieve our goals. There was a lady here, yeah,
Thank you.
oh, faculty, sorry.
Yeah, so my again question is to Ankush sir only. Sir, in academic research also, there is a debate about this SDG and sustainability regarding whether it should be policy driven or it should be voluntary managerial commitment level. And now, as sir mentioned, it is scope 1, 2, and 3. So scope 3 is very much related to value chain based, where so many stakeholders are involved, but at the same point, it is not compulsory in India. So at this point of time, how our country is going to face this challenge or address this challenge? And at the same point of time, being an academician, how academic research can help in strengthening this challenge?
Thank you again. It's a very, very, very good question. Probably yes. So see, what you have said is it's very important for voluntarily, like Sunilji mentioned, nothing will happen voluntarily until you see profits at the end of the day in the corporate structure, period. So if it's driving, if let's say if the bigger the company I am, the bigger profits or the bigger investor wealth I would be able to generate from these kind of investments, ESG investments. That's number one. So forget about anything voluntarily, it will not happen, right? Unless it is mandatory, number one. Regarding scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3, now I think it is not an option. For, you can say, the big companies, it is not an option. The middle layer companies or the small companies, a lot of options available. But in next 5 to 7 years, you will start seeing that the loans dispersals, the interest rates, everything will be depending on scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. All these 3 brackets will be there, and people will then start seeing that, okay, what is the investment or what is the results of such investments that they are going to make. Hope I answered.
One.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, again, right now we are just discussing about ESG. Very few people know about scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3. So it is very important that within a company, an IEC initiative or education initiative needs to be done on telling people about what are scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3 and what are the targets for it. So companies should internally take targets for scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 and then actually say that, okay, this is where we are progressing and this is how we are progressing on scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3. And lastly, the SDGs. There is a lot of overlap between the SDGs, the 17 SDGs that we have and the ESG parameters that we have. So automatically if someone improves on ESG, they will improve their SDG score, which will now become a mandate for all the more global you become, the more compliant to SDGs you have to have. So all those companies will also now have to disclose the SDG scores, and the more they do on ESG, their SDG scores will correspondingly increase. Okay, thank you.
You know, UN always points out that India is the 3rd largest polluter. We keep on telling them we are the 3rd largest economy, right? We don't realize that our per capita income, in terms of that, we are somewhere 125 out of 193 countries. In terms of pollution, per capita pollution, we are nowhere near United States, not even 1 ton, 1.25 tons against 18 tons of United States and 10 tons, that's the resource use per capita average. Now the point is, our population is there. So, but the global discourse doesn't want to listen to this population factor. Third largest economy, my God, if you start producing the average amount of pollution, 10 tons, the world is finished, which is right. But nonetheless, as Rakesh Basant was pointing out this morning, that nobody is listening to us. Our saying that yes, we have a responsibility, but a differentiated responsibility. The World Bank brings out a report, 2023 says, India is not processing its waste. And the whole data system is such that they don't consider all these rural-based sanitation system and rural-based dumping system. They only go by municipal data. They make fantastic assumptions that on the basis of 3 cities, they calculate the average, wastage, which comes to something, which is pretty close to that of United States, because big cities are doing that. Take that average and calculate. So we keep on shouting. Sorry, look at the per capita figure, look at the proper data system, but nobody seems to be listening. There has to be some kind of a dialogue. There has to be, so all that we can do is to raise in the international platforms that, look, don't talk about the total figure, look at the per capita figure also. But I just want to tell you 2 happy things. In terms of sustainability index, India has improved its position over the past 5-7 years. In terms of the University of London's work, India has gone up along with many other South Asian countries. The 2 important developments which is helping India. One is number of small urban centers which have come up. 2011 census showed that 3,000 new urban centers have come up, and their per capita energy consumption and per capita resources is much less, number one. And, I looked at the data, 2027 census is coming, but a large number of statutory towns have been identified, which are small towns. That is something which will help us in sustainability. And second thing, our manufacturing sector, that's what I wanted to ask Professor Ankur Doshi Sahab, that our manufacturing sector is stagnating with 16% of the total GDP. We are supposed to be having at least 25%. It doesn't seem to be going up. There are fears of premature deindustrialization. There are issues of measurement also. Goldar, who is in the National Accounts Committee, says that double discounting, if you do, manufacturing share will go up. But these are all, side issues. Basic point that strikes me as important. The NFHS data, the periodic labor force survey data shows there has been a significant growth of rural manufacturing led by women. And they are all household-based or own account enterprises employing 2 or 3 workers. That is a happy trend, because I have a feeling that if the private corporate sector is not really coming up because they are linked to the global market, there is premature deindustrial problems. But if at the rural level, manufacturing sector is coming up, and my analysis shows 80% of the rural employment, which is largely woman-based, are doing subcontracted jobs, which really means they are not poverty-induced. There is some demand for it. So if you can strengthen the marketing linkage, and that's what I wanted to know from the management principles, that this industrialization is dispersed, which is woman-based, which is household-based, own account enterprises, low carbon emissions, high efficiency in terms of the resource use. If that can be strengthened with the management governance, that if these small little units can be connected with the regional or national market, that seems to be the best way of moving towards sustainable development. I would like to hear comments. Sorry, I was a little longish in my...
Okay, you wanted a comment? I thought yours was the big comment. Okay, if you want to respond.
So, sir, I mostly agree with you. The manufacturing data doesn't appeal. But I'll say everyone is trying to play in the global geopolitics, and everyone is trying to play according to the convenience of it. America moves out of an alliance, right? China probably as the biggest manufacturing economy is probably producing more waste than us, right? So everyone is playing to their strengths, and it all leverages on how much economic strength or how much national strength you have. The strongest person shouts the loudest in the room. So probably India is becoming that strongest person, and that's where the impetus of de-dollarization and all the BRICS currencies and everything that we are trying to do is trying to gain our stature in the world where our voice is heard about it. So that's number one thing, sir. Second thing, we are about 36% average urbanized country. And probably if we have to become a mature economy, we'll be around 50% urbanized probably in next 20 years. And that has to happen. And how the urbanization will happen, of course, the cities will get more populated and the villages will become towns and towns will become small cities. That is the trend. Now, how can they happen? So it is now we have to, it's a time to have a national grid, virtual grid. Think about the country as a virtual grid. Household manufacturing. So we have had a lot of programs in India like one district, one product and everything. What is that? It's about creating identity or DNA of a town, right? So Kanpur, at one point of time, the leather things were dyed up, you know. You barely, earlier, you know, my father generation was buying Kanpur chappal, right? Or Kolhapuri chappal. It died. The name survived and somewhere in Ludhiana, manufacturers making Kolhapuri chappal, right? So now what happens, it is now these economies or these small groups predominantly led by females, thanks for this extra loans and female incentives, they are creating a small economies. Now there has to be virtual grid, that in India, footwear grid, Ludhiana, Kanpur, Kolhapur, they have to soft link itself, sharing the product, sharing the raw materials and having a small economy and then exporting out. The same thing for Lijjat Papad. Probably you will see that's the biggest, you know, group in India, self-help group. Amul started as a cooperative and look what Amul has become, right? From Mandlis, now we have one of the major dairy producing. So sir, the next trend is probable strategic urbanization that is going to happen into these small economies, and these small economies will then become big economies and then they will contribute to the GDP. So this will happen. Correspondingly, if they grow in a sustained manner, will become a sustainable nation very soon, because the new laws and the new financing frameworks are putting special impetus on having green financing, green development growth. So now earlier cities were growing like this, now they are having town planning schemes, proper green avenues, proper green plots, not you know, high rises, how much it should be. So we are becoming a good nation, well-behaving nation, and that will really result in next 22 years, you will see sustainability scores increasing. Of course, the population cannot decrease, it will rise it to a place, but will be a better nation altogether. Thank you.
You know,
So
there's
I
a
see the
recent,
examples
just 1 second. This is a recent World Bank study. World Bank has done that. Ejaz Ghani is an Indian who has done that. And he shows that the Ahmedabad-Mumbai corridor or the Delhi-Mumbai corridor has very little multiplier regional effect. They don't connect with the small and medium towns. That is something which we should think about. And as you rightly pointed out, that let us scale them up. Sorry. Thank you.
So I think we've had very good, fruitful discussions. Neha, can we now close the session? And because we have now eaten 15 minutes into your lunchtime. And I just want to thank all the speakers on my behalf for accepting our invitation and coming here today. And thank you, Neha.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parekh. And thank you very much, all the panelists, for bringing out such an interesting and insightful discussion. In such 1.5 hours time span, we have taken a long journey from what is a policy environment, what are the mandatory provisions of reporting, to what are the practices which the corporates are doing, and what the entrepreneurs can do, and what are the way ahead. And creating a picture which is not so green. Of course, there are a lot of matters of concerns, but again, there are positive interventions are giving us some optimism about the future. Thank you very much for being here and sharing your thoughts and your insights to make us understand that what's exactly happening in the industry. May I now request Director LJ MBA, Professor Siddharth Singh Bis, to felicitate all our guests with a memento. To to Mr. Subramanian, please. Ms. Archana, please. Mr. Ankur Doshi, please. And our own Dr. Sunil Parekh, sir, please.
Don't forget to look at these plastics.
Yes.
If put into the ground, they decompose by themselves in less than 6 months, unlike all other plastics. Come and get a feel of, the kind of material, whether for raincoat or packaging and for multiple applications. But feel the material. It's from starch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, one and all present over here, for being a very active audience. We'll break for a lunch and then parallel at 2 o'clock for students, please, whoever are presenting poster, please reach to your destination. I also request audience and the dignitaries over here, students have converted their projects into a research poster which are displayed at the MBA library. Please go and have a look at there.
Very good evening, all of you. As we stand at the close of 2 intellectually stimulating and inspiring days, it is both a privilege and pleasure to address the distinguished gathering at the valedictory session of the 3rd International Conference on Emerging Trends in Management Practices, ICETMP 2026. The conversations, ideas, and collaborations that unfolded over these 2 days truly reflect the spirit of academic excellence and collective commitment towards sustainable futures. Director Sir, LJ Institute of Management Studies, Dr. Siddharth Singh Bist, Convener, ICTMP 2026, Dr. Neha Shah, respected dignitaries, esteemed speakers, distinguished delegates, researchers, industry representatives, faculty members, students, and my dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure and a deep sense of gratitude to reflect upon the enriching deliberations and the meaningful engagements of the past 2 days. Over these 2 days, the conference has truly served a vibrant platform bringing together academicians, researchers, industry leaders, and policy experts from India and across the globe. We were honored to have Professor Bharat Bhaskar, Director IIM Ahmedabad, as the chief guest at the inaugural session of the conference. His address compellingly emphasized the integration of technology with human capabilities in contemporary management practices. The presidential address by Professor Dinesh Awasthi, Honorable Vice Chancellor, LJ University, offered a thought-provoking perspective on the dual impact of artificial intelligence while creating opportunities at higher skills levels. It also possesses challenges at the low end. We were equally privileged to have Professor Rakesh Basant sir, former professor IIM Ahmedabad, chairing the conference. The day also highlighted a panel discussion on attaining SDGs in South and Southeast Asia, featuring eminent panelists from Nepal, Malaysia, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and India. It was moderated by Dr. Neha Shah. The session offered rich regional perspectives and emphasized collaborations as the key to sustainable development. The day concluded with engaging technical paper presentations and keynote address by Professor Anish Sugatan, IIM Ahmedabad, who shared valuable insights on emerging trends in management education and sustainable business practices. Well, the intellectual momentum continued today as well, that is day 2, with a keynote address by Professor Amitabh Kundu. His address focused on transforming political approaches into a structural roadmap through business practices and aimed at addressing inequality in the pursuit of sustainable developmental goals. We are very proud and privileged to have him as Professor Emeritus at LJK University. The day also featured an engaging panel discussion on how high-impact sectors measure, govern, and deliver ESG outcomes. With eminent panelists on this panel from Torrent Group, PwC, and Green Maneuver Industries. The session was expertly moderated by Dr. Sunil Parekh, who is a member and board of management at LJK University. It was a very stimulating and meaningful dialogue on ESG governance, accountability, and implementation across sectors. Well, the conference concluded with excellent poster presentations and technical paper presentations, marking the successful culmination of 2 days of rigorous academic exchange and industry interaction. Before I conclude and invite the convener for prize distribution, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the speakers, panelists, delegates, reviewers, organizing committee members, volunteers, and partners for their invaluable contribution. Your active participation and commitment have made this conference a truly enriching and a memorable experience. Not taking much of your time, I would now like to invite our convener, Dr. Neha Shah, to declare the results. Thank you so much.
Good evening all. पेट में कितनी गुदगुदी हो रही है? है ना? So now I'm here to announce the prizes. First we start with the student section, right? Okay. So poster categories, we have 3 prizes, and paper categories, we have 2 prizes. So in poster category, students were asked to prepare a poster based on their research, and I'm sure, I'm told that many visitors who visited and saw their papers, they saw their posters, were very impressed by the way you made a presentation. So here is the result. The third prize for poster category goes to Proves Jadhav. Yeah, Proves, sir, please, the poster certificate for in-house is not yet prepared. So can you just have a pic over here, felicitate him just like that. Second prize goes to Priyanshu Thakkar, Darshan Agarwat, and Rudra Buddha Bhatti. Their poster was on Understanding Generation Z, Marketing Preference, Trends, and Digital Platform. Okay, yeah. Done. And the first prize, for which we have the certificate, goes to Management Effectiveness of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in Advancing Sustainable Development Goals, Evidence from Indian States. We have 2 participants from Pandit Deen Dayal Energy University, Monica Lakhani and Nandini Joshi. Congratulations. I think it is the same team who got the prize last year also, right? Congratulations. Now in paper, there are 2 prizes. I'll first announce the second prizes. Second prize goes to Anubha Shekhar Sinha, Beyond Measuring ESG Matrices. She's from IIM Kozhikode. I hope Anubha has joined us online. Congratulations, Anubha. Your paper was, the evaluators have written very positive, very good comments on your paper. Congratulations. And the first prize goes to the impact of PERMA well-being on developer productivity, a multi-group analysis using SPACE framework. Apurva Mehta, Ranjana Dureja, Jatin Rajput. Yeah. Okay, congratulations to the winners and congratulations to all participants. Most of the work were quite admired. Most of the work has received good comments from the evaluator. So congratulations to all of you for participating and showcasing your work. Over to you, Himani. Over to you.
Congratulations to all the winners, and a lot of appreciation to all the participants. A big thanks to all the students who have supported us throughout the conference, not only these 2 days, but since months. I would like to invite our director, Dr. Siddharth Singh Beast, for a closing address.
Thank you, Imani ma'am. Well, respected faculty members, delegates from other countries, scholars online, and dear students. The 2 days were highly interesting. I appreciate the patience and discipline that you've shown, because frankly international conference जो होता है थोड़ा टफ रहता है अगर आप पहली बार वो अटेंड कर रहे हैं तो इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस की एक मर्यादा होती है, ठीक है, एंड देयर इज़ अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग चांस कि लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स दैट यू हियर ओवर हियर आर नॉट इन योर टेक्स्ट बुक्स. तो आपने जो पढ़ाई करी और जो आप सुन रहे हैं उसके बीच में एक बहुत बड़ा गल्फ होता है. तो 1 घंटा चुपचाप सुनना, उसको रिलेट करना, समझना और फिर उसके बारे में क्वेश्चंस भी होना बहुत टफ रहता है, लेकिन पूरे डिसिप्लिन के साथ बैठना is very very important. Thank you so much for the grace that all you students shown. See, जो scholars यहाँ पे आए थे ना, वो बहुत अलग लेवल के थे. And I'll frankly tell you कि there's a huge possibility that many things that they might have said ना, you would have not understood. But the reason why we did that thing is that हमें ये बताना था that highest level, international level पे, national level पे, management, SDGs पे dialogue, discussion कहाँ पे हो रहा है. तो आप जो students यहाँ भी अहमदाबाद में हैं, you should know that across the world, in top institutions, in top companies, दुनिया कहाँ जा रही है. So this was your 2 days of understanding where the world is and where we are. So what happens is that आपको पता चल जाएगा कि अगर आपको next level life में जाना है तो कहाँ तक खुद को आपको खींचना पड़ेगा. So this conference was this kind of a platform where you network, meet, interact, exchange thoughts, have ideas. See, even if you're not understood certain things, don't worry about it. कुछ takeaways इस पूरे process के अंदर हैं, ठीक है. आपने एक चीज़ observe किया होगा that in these 2 days you all were supposed to be dressing in a certain way, adhering to a certain discipline. You observed so many scholars, people from different nationalities. You saw how things were. For the first time, for 2 days, you were not a normal person from Ahmedabad, but you become a global citizen because you're interacting with people from different countries. So always keep this as a memory with you, and here is how you understand where the world is. So this was just our initiative to ensure that if you become a global citizen, किस लेवल पे आपको मेहनत करनी है, किस लेवल पे इनिशिएशन करना है और किस लेवल पे आपको जाना है. हमारा काम प्लेटफॉर्म देना है, आगे जाना उसके पर, वो आपकी एक पर्सनल चॉइस है. Having said that, I would want to thank everyone. Lot of special thanks to Dr. Neha Shah. Since the last 1 year, she's been constantly working. Thank you so much to her team, Professor Himani, Professor Ranjana, and Professor Harleen. Of course, all the faculty members who were with her, because putting an international conference is very, very tough. Getting papers, getting experts for that, inviting experts, and of course, Professor Irene is here. Thank you so much, because we were in so much of two thought that whether you'd be able to make it. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming. Last time you didn't come. This time we had given up hope, but we were still trying. And luckily at the last moment, you came over here and we are so happy. You are our neighbor for so many years. We just didn't meet. So it's so nice you came over here. Lot of thanks to all the coordinators. सारे स्टूडेंट्स जिन्होंने काम किया इस इवेंट के अंदर. बहुत टफ था, ठीक है. जो IT सेटअप है, वन ऑफ द मोस्ट टीडियस सेटअप्स होता है, बिकॉज हैविंग अ 2-way वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग इज़ वेरी वेरी टफ. अगर हमसे एक चूक होती है तो जितने भी 20 स्कूल्स इंस्टीट्यूशंस अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड है वहाँ पे बेसिकली बेइज्जती हो जाती है कि यू कैन नॉट मैनेज अ सिंपल IT सिस्टम. सो वी वर वेरी 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 टेंस अबाउट इट, बिकॉज अगर आपका IT सही चल रहा है तो आपका ग्लोबल फुटप्रिंट सही पड़ रहा है, that your systems are in place, everything is professional. So we were taking a lot of pressure for it, and all the team over here, all the professors, especially Jatin sir, and I don't see Ashu sir over here, but probably, oh, there you are. So इनके साथ जितने भी कोऑर्डिनेटर्स थे, आप सबको पता है, ठीक है, कि रात पाली वाला सीन था. 12 बजे सिक्योरिटी वाला सो गया था, लेकिन आप सब लोग जगे हुए थे. And in the morning then you have to come up over here again. Thank you so much for all this effort that you put in. Thank you so much. We hope we keep on having these kind of things, and thank you for all the patience that you all have shown. And if I have missed anyone, probably the back office, of Algae, our backbone. Thank you so much, Kunal and all the stuff who are outside. Thank you so much. And if I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but you all take credit for this entire event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would also like to extend my gratitude to all our steering committee members and scientific committee members. Professor Kostadin, who is an eminent expert from Bulgaria, is online right now. Thank you very much, sir, for your continuous support. And, yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hello, sir. He's saying thank you. Yeah.
Just to say thank you for being part of your event, that conference, which is really important.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your continuous support. And we are really, really grateful to have you on board, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
See you all at the 4th International Conference. Thank you so much.